Good morning, everyone. Welcome to HCT's Bi-Annual Forum, the virtual edition. I'm Elizabeth Kobacho, your MC today from the Sharjah campuses. Our forum this year focuses on the theme of hybrid learning. A year ago today, no one could have imagined the extent to which a pandemic would paralyze the globe and turn the world of higher education upside down. However, with a growth mindset, a culture of innovation, and the bonds of the HCT community, we have persevered and forged a new world in higher education, a hybrid world. As a member of this community, you have made this possible. Please take a few moments this morning to reflect on your accomplishments this past year and how they have contributed to HCT's success. Now, we have a very special program for you today. The opening keynote will be delivered by HCT's President and CEO, Dr. Abdullatif Al Shamsi. Then the VP of Shared Services, Engineer Abdullah Al Mahedi, will present the Employee Excellence Awards and CEO Appreciation Medals. Chief Academic Officer, Dr. Alex Zahovich, will then elaborate on HCT's hybrid academic delivery model. A panel discussion will follow about our hybrid learning model, moderated by Dr. Ra'a, Executive Dean of Programs and Curricula. Afterwards, there will be a presentation and Q&A session on HCT's new strategy cycle, moderated by Dr. Ahmed Sami, the Executive Director of Strategy and Future. Dr. Adel Al-Amri, the VP of Strategy and Excellence, will then discuss how HCT is getting ready for the Government Excellence Awards. Presenters, please mute yourself during the times you are not presenting. When you are ready for the next slide in the presentation, please say next slide. Lastly, please be mindful of your presentation length so that our forum stays on schedule. To our guests joining us on your phones, tablets, and laptops, we encourage you to post your reflections on today's forum to HCT's social media channels on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter using the hashtag HCT Hybrid Education. Let's start trending. And now for our opening keynote address, which will be delivered by HCT's President and CEO, Dr. Abdullatif Al Shamsi, who will highlight HCT's world-renowned accomplishments through these most challenging times. Welcome, Dr. Abdullatif. The stage is all yours.
للعام الثاني على التوالي أدخل تحدي دقيقتان استجابة لطلب فريق عملي في كليات التقنية العليا لأذكر إنجازات كليات التقنية، ولهذا العام استثنائي في دقيقتين، والذي يمثل بحد ذاته تحديا لنا وللعالم أجمع في ظل جائحة كوفيد-19. ورغم ذلك قررت الاستجابة وخوض التحدي لأن كليات التقنية بالفعل قدمت نموذجا رائدا خلال هذا العام. فلنبدأ. خلال أزمة كوفيد-19 من مارس إلى مايو حققنا إنجازات عديدة. نجحنا في التحول السريع، التعلم أونلاين، 16 فرع وأكثر من 23,000 طالب وطالبة من مواصلة دراستهم دون انقطاع. أطلقنا الحرم الجامعي الرقمي لتعزيز التحول المتكامل للحياة الطلابية والأنشطة، والتي كانت أكثر من 700 نشاط. أنجزنا أكثر من 1,600,000 ساعة تدريسية عن بعد، والتي تعتبر الأكثر إنجازاً على مستوى العالم. قدمنا لطلبتنا أكثر من 61,000 محاضرة مباشرة عبر بلاك بورد ألترا، ونحو 115,000 امتحان أونلاين. حصل نموذج كليات التقنية التحول الرقمي المتكامل خلال كوفيد-19 على إشادات وتقديرات نشرتها دوريات علمية عالمية مرموقة، منها المجلة الدولية للتعليم العالي وهاير إديوكيشن دايجست وهارفارد بزنس ريفيو. وحصلنا كذلك على جائزة بلاك بورد العالمية عن فئة تدريب وتطوير المهني لأعضاء التدريس لعام 2020. نجحنا في تصميم وتصنيع أجهزة تنفس اصطناعي بمواصفات طبية عالمية. تمكنا من تحويل 155,000 وثيقة إلى منصة البلوكتشين. احتفلنا افتراضيا بتخريج 5243 طالب وطالبة لهذا العام. أصبحت الشهادات الاحترافية المهنية العالمية جزء من 97% من برامجنا الأكاديمية. نجحنا في إطلاق 67 شركة ناشئة تتمتع برخص تجارية وتمارس نشاطها التجاري في سوق العمل. نجحنا في إنجاز أول دراسة علمية عالميا بالتعاون مع الجمارك الاتحادية للكشف عن كوفيد-19 باستخدام حاسة الشم لدى الكلاب الجمركية. وعالميا حصلت كليات التقنية على جائزة الجودة من المجلس العالمي للاعتماد الأكاديمية، وحصلنا على جائزة الاعتماد الدولي لوكالة ضمان الجودة للتعليم العالي من المملكة المتحدة QAA، وحققنا جائزة CFI عن فئة أفضل مؤسسة تعليمية عن تطبيق التقنيات على مستوى الشرق الأوسط. ونفخر اليوم باختتام نجاحنا للفصل الدراسي الأول مع نهاية الفصل داخل الكليات وعقد 510 امتحان موحد لأكثر من 20,000 طالب طالبة، وبنسبة حضور تجاوزت 95%. انتهى الوقت وهناك المزيد، لكن يبقى التأكيد على أن بناء الإنسان عملية مستمرة ولا تقاس بزمن، والجاهزية المسبقة ضرورة حتمية، ونحن دائما مستعدون. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم، الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين. Dear fellows, colleagues, faculty, I'm very pleased to meet with you all today. I think the video we just seen has summarized pretty much my talk. There's so much we are so proud of we have achieved during 2020, although it's been a very challenging year for many of us. But I think what we have gone through and what we have achieved is indeed remarkable by all means. In that video, we've seen how much accomplishment we had because of you as a faculty who are very dedicated, committed to HCT, dedicated to your students, to the program that you are delivering, and we made sure that there's no interruption has taken place. In fact, during this period of time, we have set an example, an exemplary model for many other institutions to follow. And in fact, with many challenges we faced, when we reflect back on it, we were able to make it through, and we are also very proud that we have learned so much of it. At the personal level, when we went through the transformation, the digital transformation, during the lockdown, we have to convert all of our teaching and learning methodologies to become an online and to be more interactive with our faculty. And in fact, I have taken the challenge during the summer to teach one of the courses I used to teach face-to-face, but I said, let me see how is online is really making an impact on our students. And I have taught one section in Fujairah campus for the female students. It's a fluid mechanics course, by the way. And I'm very thankful to the team that worked with me. I remember Dr. Lina from Fujairah campus, who helped me a lot. In fact, to go through the teaching through a camera, not through a face-to-face. It's very different and it's very challenging. It's not easy. When you address a group of students on a computer screen, rather than having them to sit in front of you where you can see, even if they don't engage, but you see their facial expression. On the online world, it's different. Pedagogy change, the approach change, but we have proven that it is also a working model. That's why the theme we are talking about today is the hybrid learning and how much we have achieved. And also, we were able to make all these success models because we made sure that we stick to the basis of the government excellence model, which based on innovation, agility, and preemptiveness. We were able to apply all those elements during this transformation, and that's why our transformation was successful. And let's move to the, let's see if this slide is working. Okay. Okay, so what I'm going to highlight quickly today, I know you have heard so much in those two minutes video clip, but also it is time that we celebrate achievements of the 2020. And let's look at the hybrid education mode of teaching. Is it truly hybrid? And there's so much to talk about it. That's why we have a very rich program today addressing all these issues. Also, we'll talk about our aspiration for the next strategy between 21 to 26. So let's highlight a bit of all those elements as we move forward. But first, as we go on, the achievement we were able to make in 2020 was not an easy achievement. In fact, from March to May, and many of you have seen those numbers, we were able to achieve about 1.4 million hours of online instructions, 61,000 of lectures using Blackboard, 115,000 of online assessment, 55,000 of faculty PD hours. Those numbers are really big, not only at the regional, but globally. We are one of the largest institutions at the global level that implemented the transformation of using teaching and learning through a Blackboard platform and others in a very efficient and effective way. And we have seen that reflected on the satisfaction of our students. In fact, we've seen our students' satisfaction rate more than 90%. Attendance was extremely high. But also, our faculty, which I understand when we started during the lockdown in March, we were a bit hesitant about delivering our online instruction. But we were able in less than a month to jump from 70% to 92% of satisfaction among our faculty. Why? Because we get comfortable in using the tools of the technology to deliver our instructions, of course, with the help of the PD and the education technology that supported us all the way. Also, we are so proud that we have achieved many international recognitions at the global level. The QAA is one of the very prestigious standards for accreditation. And we are one of the very first internationally are recognized by QAA. CHIA, the Council for Higher Education, we were able to recognize, our HCT was recognized by CHIA at the global level for the academic quality of our programs. Best Technology Educator in the Middle East, the Best Implementation of Technology in Education Award. But also, more importantly for our faculty, we're also able to get the Blackboard Catalyst Award 2020 for the PD programs were delivered at that time for our faculty. The academic part was extremely important, but also the health and safety is a priority and remain a priority for our students and our faculty. And in fact, ROSPA, we got the Golden Award for Health and Safety, and we are indeed becoming an exemplary model of delivering our instruction in healthy and safety environment and ensuring safety is number one. So today is the time to say thank you. Thank you to our faculty. Thank you to our leaders in this organization who really helped us to move forward and to be able to accomplish a very distinguished type of work in a very short period of time. Just to mention our chief academic, Alex, who you will have a chance to address you later on, Dr. Adil Amri, Abdullah Al-Mheri, and Dr. Jihad, who was the one behind many of the online achievements that we had in a very short period of time. So with this, today also we are recognizing some of our distinguished staff and faculty for the Excellence Award and medals. And I'm very proud today that we're going to announce about 63 who have achieved this distinction of the Excellence Award. And we are very proud of our faculty. All of our faculty, in fact, have done a distinction work. It was not easy, but some of them, we're going to mention them. And this will be the part that will be presented by Abdullah Al-Mheri in the session after, and he will make the announcement of those 63 faculty and staff. And moving next, the hybrid education, a very nice presentation. You will hear it soon by Dr. Alex, the Chief Academic Officer. But we all realize today, Hybrid education is the new norm. And in HCT, we are setting the standards for hybrid education, in fact. Why? We strongly believe in hybrid education because it changes our perception of education. It's helping us to overcome barriers from the traditional way of delivering instructions. But more importantly, which is I strongly believe in, that making teaching and learning fun for our student and for our faculty. So there are many opportunities associated with the hybrid. Definitely the flexibility and the freedom, accessibility to distinguish, and optimizing our resources. But also there's a challenge associated with it. And when we look at those challenges, getting our students' mindset to take us serious when we deliver our instruction online. The digital proficiency. The digital proficiency is a moving target. Every day we are overwhelmed as a faculty with the new tools of technology that we can use. The use of simulation, the use of apps, the use of all these different tools available in our platform. How can we efficiently use it to engage our students during the online delivery of instruction? And we have to be more innovative in how do we engage our students? How do we get them more excited about our instructions and how do we deliver that? Many of those topics will be addressed in more details by Alex later on. But also, the key question is hybrid education truly hybrid? When the pandemic and the lockdown happened, we went fully online. And then later on, we said, well, we need to do both. We still have to have face-to-face instruction, and we have online. Because with the online, we have proven, yes, we can deliver the online instruction. But the question is, where is the balance? How can we ensure that we are achieving the correct balance between face-to-face and online? And there is a magic formula we have to achieve it to ensure that from one program to another that we are really achieving that. And that's why this kind of discussion will take place more during the panel discussion we're having later on, moderated by Dr. Ra'a, in analyzing the course learning outcomes and how can we classify it, and identifying what is the best delivery mode of instruction. We always need to remember, we as in Higher College of Technology, we are an applied education institution. So the hands-on, the engagement is very important. So bringing students on campus is part of the hybrid. Now, how much of that? Because we can always make a claim between 1% to 9%, 99% that all this range remain is a hybrid. It's a mix of both. But trying to come up with the right secret formula, that's the challenge. We need to indicate what is the highest possible percentage of an online off-campus compared to the on-campus. And if we are able to indicate all these, we hope to come up with the right combination of hybrid. One thing I need to highlight here, the hybrid education, yes, it was introduced during the COVID-19. But what we are thinking more is beyond COVID-19, because this is to stay. The online instruction is to remain as part of our new revamped education system. And what we have gained through the COVID-19 and the full lockdown with the online instruction, we can combine it with our on-campus instruction to come up with an ideal model for the delivery of the hybrid education model. So we've been testing and trying to explore what is the best combination of all. And that's why, in fact, this is a very interesting chart to discuss and to talk about. We have conducted during fall 2020 a survey, and we have looked at 739 different courses with the number of SCTLs 487, and we get 99 respond rate. And what we have asked is again the same questions was in the previous slide. what percentage of every course can be then delivered completely with high efficiency online? And that is represented in this green bar chart. And what percentage of the learning outcomes for each course must be delivered on campus? And that is represented by the red color. And there is a range in between where we can do both. It depends on the tools, it depends on the simulation, it depends on the environment, which represent the gray color that require both digital and physical space. And when we look at this chart, we see it definitely differs from one division to another. And it definitely differs also within the division from one program to another. And also it differs within the same program from one course to another. Some courses will rely more and can be delivered with high efficiency the online, and some courses that would remain required and on campus. Until today, I have to be frank with you all, my dear faculty. Still, with the assessment, it's still quite of a challenge to deliver it online. And that's why we are mandating the assessment part to be happening on campus. This is a very important point that we always need to remember. Yes, we are building the experience as time goes. And may we come up with some point with a very efficient way to deliver an online assessment. But until we reach that stage, we still need to conduct our assessment on campus. We still have to, of course, with the different activities of our students, whether it's a hands-on workshop, training, presentations, different activities that we still need to bring our students on campus. Unfortunately, some of the students have taken the full online as the norm, and we have to be careful with that because it is not. We still cannot disconnect from the campus, and we cannot keep students away from campus for a long time. It is the combination of both, I think, what will set the new norm of education for years to come. And this is, in fact, will bring us a lot of added value and bring in more efficient, more excited, and more fun teaching and learning tools. So we'll move next in thinking about our next 5 years. What is the strategy set? And we have a good session later on, will be presented by Dr. Adil and Dr. Ahmed Sami. We'll talk about the strategy, the 5-year strategy, and what is our aspirations with this strategy. But our purpose, it's very clearly stated here. That HCT being the talent and the skill incubator to deliver the national vision. This is our purpose as HCT and will remain for years to come. And when we look at the aspiration, just to highlight the things we are thinking about, we have 4 major aspirations that we look forward to be part of our education. And again, those aspirations is to build on the strength that we have already made within HCT, within HCT 4.0 and previously in HCT 2.0. So it's building in our strength and continuing in that path toward education for wealth creating careers. So how can we get more of our students into the to become technical leaders, to become professionally qualified, the coupling with the professional certification we have introduced years before. This will continue in building or creating wealth by graduating a high caliber students. We need to have an education system that is more and more personalized. What do we mean by that? We all understand we are the largest higher education institution in the country. We receive every year between 6,000 to 7,000 new students with different background, with different talents, with different skills, with different competencies. How do we make sure that every one of our students can make it through their journey within HCT to achieve the outcome? So we need to make sure that it's personalized, and this is where we have the advantage of the hybrid education that we would like to build on. So we provide teaching and learning instructions anytime, anywhere. In fact, this is what we've been advocating for the past 3 years when we introduced the phrase of Uber-like education, if you remember, 2 years ago. Now, it is, in fact, as more and more is happening. So we can have our students accessing instructions anytime, anywhere, and more personalized toward their needs and their interests. How can we have also more engaging student journey, more vibrant, relevant, and socially engage with them? What do we mean by that? How can we make teaching and learning fun for our students? Because we need to change the way we deliver our instructions. We need to bring our students on board. We need to get them excited about teaching and learning. We need them to get engaged more in the technology tools. And this is part of their day-to-day. We are dealing with the Z generation. They are very technology oriented. It's extremely important today that we use different simulations, different apps, different tools, different gadgets with the technology that get them more engaged and more excited about learning. It's extremely important. The way we deliver instructions have to change to bring students more on board and to bring them more interested into what we deliver. And last but not the least, HCT 4.0, what distinguished at that time was the concept of graduating companies. And in fact, that's what makes HCT today stand. Nicola and his team have worked so hard to get this concept on ground happening. And we are very proud today with the incubation space that we are able to graduate 72 companies this year in 2020. That was not an easy task. Talking the academic language and the business language simultaneously and bringing our students' mindset to become entrepreneurs, to become, to think more about having their own startups was not easy. To convert their students' projects or graduation project or a capstone project to a commercial product and services, that's not easy conversion. But today, I strongly believe we have a very solid team on ground to help students, to guide them to become, to start to have their own startups, and to ensure our economy in the UAE sustained through the small and medium enterprises. But more importantly, it's not only for this small group of students who are having their own startup. It's the mindset of all of our students and our faculty as well, that today the entrepreneurial way of thinking out of the box, becoming more innovative in their solutions. And we strongly believe this generation, they have a very bright and very innovative ideas and many solutions that we can really capitalize on it. But I think having that mindset in our programs across all divisions, it's making a big difference in how our students and our graduates think. Even if they don't have a startup, this kind of a skill is becoming more and more mandatory for many different jobs, whether in the government or in the private sector. So with these aspirations we have, we will talk more about it, and I want to leave some for later on for my colleagues, Dr. Adil and Dr. Ahmed Sami, to speak about, and that should, in fact, conclude my talk, that together we can make significant changes through those aspirations. So we can really make significant changes and raise aspirations for our graduates, for our students. And I think with the coming 4 years, it will become more and more exciting, because we in HCT, we are very dynamic. We think ahead. We're trying to move and to accommodate all the changes. Today, we are preparing our students not only for the jobs that does not yet exist, but we are preparing our graduates for the challenges that we don't know about. And COVID-19 was a perfect example. So I'm very delighted to meet with you all today. I'm very pleased to have this opportunity to address my dear colleagues, faculty, and to highlight some of the future things that we need to think together and to work together as a team to move forward to the benefit of our students and to the benefit of our country. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Abdullatif, for your inspiring and insightful keynote speech and reflections on HCT's accomplishments over the past year. We've certainly had a most impressive year despite significant challenges. I would now like to invite the VP of Shared Services, Engineer Abdullah Al-Mahedi, to our virtual stage. He will be presenting the Employee Excellence Awards and CEO Appreciation Medals to several members of our HCT community. Engineer Abdullah, welcome.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum and good morning all. I wish you all and your beloved ones a happy and a successful year full of joy. It has been a challenging year for all of us, but with the extraordinary efforts and as a team, we managed to turn all challenges to opportunities. I would like to thank every member of the HCT community for their dedications and hard work during the time of uncertainty. Well done all. Your efforts are rewarded and happy to announce the winners' names of this year. Rewards and incentive cycles for different categories in addition to the CEO medals. The cycle started last year in October till mid of December by employees nominating themselves for the different rewards categories. The task force evaluated all applications in a very professional way. This year, inshallah, the cycle will start in September. So please be prepared with a new and innovative achievements to participate in the next cycles and wish the best for the all. Please join me to celebrate with all winners in this video. Thank you.
Dear HCT family members, greetings and welcome to the HCT Bi-Annual Academic Forum 2021. After a very exciting year, passing tough times and cross many challenges, we are here to celebrate our success and to appreciate your great exceptional efforts in achieving and even exceeding HCT goals and objectives in the year 2020. In 2019, the first HCT rewards and incentives system announced, which aimed to recognize the efforts of outstanding employees involved in the enhancement of HCT's success and promoting institutional loyalty and teamwork. As we had an exceptional year, our CEO and President announced the new HCT's Pioneers Award 2020. In addition to the existing 5 award categories, 5 new medal categories have been added to give the opportunity to HCT staff to get recognized for their great efforts and get a better chance to shine. For the first time, each employee had the opportunity to nominate himself for any award or medal category and express freely about his achievements and success stories. On 8th of November 2020, the HCT Pioneers Award 2020 announced, and then the journey began. 166 employees were nominated to win in 10 different categories. Through 3 evaluation phases and a very specific evaluation criteria for each reward and medal, 156 employees passed the first evaluation successfully and ensured their eligibility for the second evaluation phase. Through a sharp evaluation process including one-to-one virtual or phone meetings, revising all nomination forms, supporting documents, HR and performance records for all nominees, 95 nominees have fulfilled the requirements as per the reward and medal category criteria and being eligible for the final evaluation phase, which resulted in a total of 63 winners for the HCT Pioneers 2020. 23 winners for the awards and 40 winners for the medals. We are here today to say thank you from our heart to the winners, the shortlisted, and to all nominees, and to everyone contributed to the success of HCT. And now, let's celebrate our HCT Pioneer Award 2020 winners. The first category, the Exceptional Employee Award, which is granted to those who have dedicated exceptional efforts beyond the scope of their job duties and their performance objectives and led to a successful achievement in HCT. And the winners in the Exceptional Employee Award are Abdul Wali Syed, Tiago Caldeira, Rafat Kabara, Eliaduraj Dinesh, Huda Al Shamsi, Khalid Al Nuaimi. And now with the second category, Innovative Employee Award, which is granted to an employee who has submitted innovative and creative ideas, which has had a great positive impact on achieving HCT strategic goals. And the winners of the Innovative Employee Award are Haris Khalid, Maher Al-Sakaf. The third category is the Outstanding Employee Award, which is granted to an employee who has won one of the Institutional Excellence Awards at HCT or at the level of the federal government. And the only winner for the Outstanding Employee Award is Dr. Abdul Qudus Muhammad for winning the first place in Best Research in Human Resources Field Award 2020 from Federal Authority for Government Human Resources. Now, with the fourth category, Community Employee Award, which is granted to those who have contributed to highlight the role of HCT in the area of community service by voluntary work and membership in community service associations. And the winners for the Community Employee Award 2020 are Khaled Alatar, Nida Al-Barghouti, Samar Al-Farah. And finally, the last award, the Unknown Soldier Award, which is granted to dedicated employee performing outstanding work with adherence to code of conduct, working hours, and with a positive attitude team player. And the Unknown Soldiers of HCT 2020 are Abdul Nassar Mami, Fatima Al-Shamaili, Feroz Khan, Hind Al-Daheri, Nuha Al-Zagari, Musa Al-Ali, Priya Avla, Randa Al-Zabi, Quraish Ahmed, Jasim Al-Shamaili, Meita Al-Gahari. And now, with the winners for the HCT Pioneers 2020 medals according to their achievements, impact, innovation, continuous learning, and the leadership. The Supervisory Medal winners 2020 are Sarah Whitaker, Dr. Gali Kawanzarua. The Youth Medal winners 2020 are Aisha Al-Samahi, Moza Al-Kabi, Halima Al-Saraidi, Kamal Jaiswal. The Pioneer Medal winners 2020 are Basel Badran, Nicole Shamas, Fauzi Bouslama, Mohammed Muflehi. The Distinguished Woman Medal, and the winners for this medal are Kaula Al-Shehi, Sabina KM, Irene Corpus, and finally, the CEO Appreciation Medal. And the winners for this medal are selected directly by our CEO and President, His Excellency Dr. Abdullatif Al Shamsi, for their great efforts and impact. And the winners for the CEO Appreciation Medal 2020 are Dr. Mohammed Baka, Nicola Bettio, Rami Hamdan, Mohammed Abdul Qadir, Sarah Al-Marzouki, Rania Seif, Caroline Jens, Georgia Delure, Nadim Khan, Muhammad Raja, Abrar Mikawi, Lubna Skate, Mustafa Elbe, Mahmoud Rana Khan, Omar Ayash, Lamia Al-Hajri, Musa Al-Shamaili, Shaika Al-Ali, Ahmed Al-Mullah, Clayton Menezes, Alex Hanawi, Sapna Kalidas, Babu Jose, Ragad Nilawi, Engineer Rajendra Nalasamy, Junaid CM, and the last winner is Saravana Murthy. Thank you from our heart for those who are going extra miles, dedicating extra efforts, and went beyond expectations. Keep up the good work. We highly appreciate your contribution in HCT's success, and we really believe that you are our real treasure. All the best, and see you next cycle.
Thank you, Engineer Abdullah, and congratulations again to all the winners. Your accomplishments are well-deserved and recognized by our HCT community and beyond. Just a quick reminder to our presenters to please mute yourselves when you're not presenting, and please announce the next slide when you are ready to move on to your next slide. To our guests, feel free to post your reflections on our forum today to HCT's social media channels using the hashtag HCT Hybrid Education. I'd now like to turn our attention to Dr. Alex Zahovich, our Chief Academic Officer, who will discuss HCT's global leading hybrid academic delivery model. Dr. Alex, the floor is yours.
Shukran, Elizabeth. Salam alaikum, merhaba mayun. Colleagues, friends, it's good to see everybody. I've decided this morning to dispense with slides and presentations and do a fireside chat like a good Canadian would do in the middle of January when it's -25, but alas, I have no fire, and this is going to be a one-way conversation, so not much of a chat, but feel free to ask any questions when I'm done. I just like to, when I see names scroll by like we just did, it reminds me of what we are as human beings. We are an incredibly adaptive and flexible species if we get out of our own way and allow ourselves the freedom to think, to do things. And it's amazing what we can accomplish. And this past year, 2020, in spite of all its trials and tribulations, was a huge year of accomplishment globally and specifically within HCT. And the names that you saw scroll by are a testament to what I love to study and am always fascinated by, which is the resilience of the human spirit. And so here we are today to celebrate, as well as to take a little peek behind the curtain and see what's in front of us in the future. So Dr. Abdullatif, thank you very much for setting the table and not taking too much of my presentation. It's going to be an interesting combination as we share our thoughts and ideas, but I think it truly demonstrates how synchronized our executive are towards our objective of seeing our students be successful. And the hybrid model I'm going to speak to today is a very specific example. It's not unique to HCT, but what is unique is our successful implementation and the way we've gone about defining things. So I like to dig into a little bit of trivia, or a little, what I call UBIs, useless bits of information, every once in a while. And one of them would be the definition of hybrid. So there's a couple ways to look at it in various dictionaries. The word offspring comes out quite often in the biological sense, the offspring of plants or animals of different species. And one of the dictionaries gave an example as in a mule. And I would say that HCT is far from a mule. Another one is obviously the adjective of the use of the word hybrid, and it's of mixed character composed of different elements. And I think in the true sense of the adjective hybrid in front of the word model, that definitely describes and puts into perspective what HCT has and is doing. So really, our hybrid model is nothing more than a combination of things. It's a combination of delivery environments, whether it's online or face-to-face, on campus, off campus. When I talk about delivery, I'm not talking strictly just academic. I'm talking about the entire collegial experience for our students, as well as our staff, our entire staff, faculty, administrative. We are living this hybrid model today. Industry, corporations, the world is living a hybrid model. So ours is very specific to our core business, which is education. And what we're seeing is a pedagogical shift into multiple modes of delivery within one course, within one program, multiple modes of assessment as well. And so this combination is the essence of the adjective use of the word hybrid. What I'm going to do today is just break things out into three aspects of my conversation. One is HCT's implementation. The second one, to build off of what Dr. Abdullatif shared on some of the early results, and then to get into, okay, what's next? Where are we going with this beast we call the hybrid model? So HCT's implementation, if you think about it, it started years ago. It really did. And you have to kind of set the table for something as significant a shift as we're going through right now. And the pandemic is merely a catalyst in the sense that it accelerated things. And I've probably used this before, but Peter Drucker, a famous futurist, used to say that every once in a while, centuries of change get compressed into decades. Well, guess what just happened? I think a decade of change just got compressed into about 9 months, and we're still going forward. The academic world, the ivory tower, the graystone buildings, they don't change on a dime, if they change at all. And yet here we are. We were faced with a situation that forced us to change. And the table that HCT set up in terms of its IT infrastructure, in terms of modifying and getting into testing and teasing out blended learning, set the table for the hybrid model in many ways. But what we had to accomplish as well was a fundamental shift in perspective on how we were going to run things academically. And a year ago, the challenge I was able to put to the organization was to look at the whole restructuring of our academic administration, as well as the roles and responsibilities within the organization. And the implementation encapsulated many of these aspects, talking about the implementation of the hybrid model, encapsulated many of these aspects that we put into place. The big one, I think, and it may not be viewed as big in many people's minds, but we listened to our faculty. Our senior management sat down, had a good heart-to-heart faculty, and we listened. And one thing we found is that faculty were doing far too much administration, not enough education, and not enough advising and connecting with their students. And so we were able to shift and become more advising, more mentoring for our faculty by relieving the administrative load and shifting it more towards academic services and cleaning up some of our advising systems. So that this, I said at the beginning, we have this incredibly adaptive and flexible species called the human. When we get out of our way, well, we got the administration out of our way, and faculty now have had the freedom to focus more consistently on the classroom and the students, as opposed to the COBs that we're being faced with and the robo emails that were coming out of various areas. And that unleashed, I think, some things that were very important to the success down the road, and who knew within a couple of months. We're seeing a greater shift as well with the conversion of our applied research into the classroom. And our faculty as researchers are now driving those outcomes through capstone projects and even through their lectures from what they've discovered into the classroom. And that is a big shift, because in many cases, research never finds its way into the classroom. Graduate research finds its way into a publication, and maybe it tweaks the curriculum a little bit. Whereas HCT is driving more of those research outcomes into the classroom through the capstone projects. And that greater focus has helped us tremendously as we went forward. Then we made a shift around the whole administrative structure, where we had division chairs and program coordinators, and we had divisions. So we renamed our divisions faculties. We stuck to a bit of a traditional name for our divisions. And then we created roles such as program team leaders, academic program chairs, maintained SCTLs. It's interesting, some of the early feedback. I've been accused of being too much of an engineer and lived in the manufacturing environment, and some of our titles sound like we are on a manufacturing floor. Well, it's all a matter of perspective. And I can honestly say that if we're in the role of core business of manufacturing students and graduates with careers, so be it. It's all a matter of interpretation. But what we did in that process, and what's really important, is we updated, or in some cases created, job descriptions. And that was really key. People now have clarity of their roles. And that's always been, at the forefront of Edward Deming philosophy on continuous improvement. Clarity of roles. And we've gotten that. We're working our way through it, but we're getting there. All this, again, gave us this room to create and to explore. And then all of a sudden, a year ago, we're hearing from China. We're hearing things are going to change. Something is happening. We're not quite sure what it is. Next thing you know, on March 4th and 5th, we're running our 2-day pilot, and we are fully online, off campus, and away we go. interestingly enough, we were building these roles and administrative roles and this freedom on the administrative side for maybe implementation in the next 6, 7, 8 months. Well, it hit us and we went full on to put this in place in the summer. The key for this now is the transition. Okay, how do we recapture what was successful from the past and what is obviously successful today and going into the future? And early results are showing that the students are satisfied, the employees are satisfied. We didn't compromise the credential. Those are significant signals that we're along the right path. And when you're in senior management, you have to have constant awareness of what's going on around you. And these things are constantly in the back of our mind. And when we see results like we did, as Dr. Abdullatif presented, it confirmed we're moving along the right path. Now, one of the interesting early results was a little bit of, unintended benefits. And that occurred in our December foire when we didn't have our online monitoring for the exams, and yet we saw a significant improvement in assessment integrity. It was amazing. It said to me, I talk about the resilience of the human spirit. Here we are at the 11th hour faced with making a decision, and we came up with such a simple solution, yet so elegant, that we saw a significant drop in cheating and the campus council appeals as a result of that. We made a big dent in assessment integrity, and that is a very, very huge win as we head forward in this hybrid model. So what's next? Well, first and foremost, what's next is what's important today, and that's the incorporation of health and safety measures on our campuses. We've been recently tested, some may be aware, in Dubai. We responded. It demonstrates the robustness of our colleagues in support services and their strategies and plans to protect us, protect our students, protect our staff. And that is front and center of the next steps as we go forward, because this pandemic's going to be around for a while. We will be vaccinated, but there's still so much uncertainty around it. We might as well get used to the fact that we're going to have health and safety measures on our campuses for a while. And that's not a bad thing, actually. It in many ways, I think, increased our awareness of our own human vulnerabilities. The next thing, okay, once you establish your processes for safe and healthy measures on campus, is how do you recapture the loss and social psychological benefits of higher education? Every one of us on this call, this meeting today, had tremendous education experiences on the campuses. Our students have lost that. And that's a big, big loss, because there's more to life than the classroom. And growing within the education setting is really important to that. So we have to recreate that. That itself is going to be a hybrid model project. We did some testing with the DigiCampus. We're going to keep some of those things, but we do have to get students' participation on campus. And it's not just a tick box of attendance. The operative word is participation. So the challenge is, how are we going to increase that participation level? There's some obvious pieces that are required, especially when you're dealing with applied education. You can't do everything with an adjective in front of the word reality. I'm sorry, it's not real if you have to put an adjective into it. Reality in terms of our EMS, our control rooms, our businesses, education practicums, that stuff is real, and that still has to continue. But there is also that social thing that we can't lose. the greetings we see of our students sitting in the hallways, having that conversation. Student advisors becoming mentors. I mean, some of the most rewarding experiences we have as faculty is when we see our student on LinkedIn or we get a text that they've got a new job. I don't know what is more rewarding in a career than us helping others realize their potential. We've got to regain that somehow, and that's what's got to come forward. On the program review side of things, we're going to be doing significant reviews. Our APCs are going to be very, very busy in the coming weeks. They've got to take a look at the alignment of our curriculum with economic development, jobs and wealth creation. They have to look at program expansion. And then they have to look at modes of delivery. So this all has to be taken into context as we go forward in how we're going to be doing the hybrid model. It's going to be a busy time for everybody. We all need everybody to participate. The last thing is I want to top out on is the conversion of our applied research, whether it's into commercial ventures or graduating companies. And that ties into rewarding careers for our students and advancement of the prosperity of all Emiratis, and for, you know, for us expats as well. We have to be a lot more aggressive in the conversion of our applied research work, getting it into the classroom, getting into capstone projects. And I'll put in a final plug here for our incubation week that is coming up in at the end of February. We're going to be showcasing, we're going to be going head to head with the whole innovation week of the country. But it's time for HCT to show off what it's capable of in the whole area of applied research and graduating companies. The hybrid model is integral to that success. With that, thank you very much. And I look forward to carrying on this conversation in person when I get to the campuses. Have a great day, everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Alex, for the fireside chat and in-depth look at our trailblazing hybrid academic delivery model. Next, we will hear about the lessons learned and improvements sought from our new hybrid learning model. Dr. Ra'a Saeed, Executive Dean of Programs and Curricula, will be moderating a conversation between today's panelists, who include Dr. Aisha Abdullah, Dr. Saud Al-Daja, Dr. Hanan Ben Abdullah, Dr. Philip Quirk, Dr. Georgia Dalur, and Dr. Rabiha Sabusi. Welcome, panelists, and Dr. Ra'a.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Dear colleagues, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and a very well good morning to you all. It gives me a pleasure to be your moderator for this morning session, in which we hope to discuss and cover as many aspects of the title Hybrid Learning Being a New Norm, exploring and evaluating such a possibility while relying on HCT's experience during the past 10 months journey, thus noting the lessons learned and improvements sought. Next slide, please. This morning, HCT President and CEO started in his opening the question, is hybrid learning truly hybrid? Attempting to highlight the envisioned structure of hybrid learning for it to be an effective new norm of learning. Embedded in that questions, I find the fact that hybrid learning in general isn't a new attempt of its kind. For example, in the pre-COVID-19 era, several models of utilizing online instructions were practiced. Flipped classroom focused on providing instructional content online and outside the classroom time while utilizing the classroom time for real-life activities. Blended learning as well utilized a mix of online and classroom activities requiring the physical temporal presence of both the learners and the instructor. MOOCs is another model which stands for a massive open online courses. On the other hand, relied entirely on online delivery to provide a flexible in time and venue. During the COVID-19 pandemic, these previous experiences served as a mechanism for continued delivery of education while customizing previously gained experiences for considerations of scalability, uniformity, consistency, and efficiency. This is giving a rise to seriously consider the high potential of hybrid learning being the future norm, where it features distinct domains for the digital and physical spaces, optimization of resources contributing to each space, and the introduction of new process factors such as digital pedagogy, digital campuses, and so on. Next slide, please. A fundamental impact of considering hybrid learning as a new norm is the importance to review and consider the learning framework, especially for the applied education. A typical learning framework is to your left on the slide, consisting basically of two dimensions. One that classifies learning setups as constructed, such as classrooms and labs, and realistic, such as workplaces or workshops. Another dimension defines learning modes as either by acquisition or by participation. Therefore, this gives rise to the four learning environment you see in front of you, giving rise to the utilization of the full potential of both the digital and the physical spaces, as well as availing the required resources and developing the proper tools for each space allows different learning modes to be achievable in the different learning setups. For example, you look at the hybrid education framework, you will see it defines possible learning environment with more dynamic, high fidelity framework, leading to a very rich learning environment. Next slide, please. Revisiting the survey presented by President and CEO, the results suggested by the hybrid learning survey is suggesting that there is a good chance that hybrid learning may be a new norm, given, and this is in agreement with all the system team course leaders, that given the required digital resources and developed or even made available, as well as having the proper mindset and readiness of all stakeholders, students, instructors, administrators, if all these are developed, then there is an acknowledgement that this may be a new norm. However, there is an acknowledgement that there are limits, of course, for learning modes in a hybrid education. Then it becomes a matter of optimizing these limits to reach the correct balance between the two spaces, digital and physical. We're hoping in the discussion of this morning session to reach a consensus on what these limits are and how we reach that balance. Next, please. To address those points and several others, we will be focusing on the following discussion themes. The hybrid learning, was it really a necessity and it will stay as a necessity, or there is an opportunity that we can grasp? The digitization of education, what can it offer? What does it require? Hands-on training and practicums. For HCT being an applied education, this is extremely important. Dr. Alex has just said the word reality, something that we cannot give up on. Learning framework and pedagogy, classrooms, online, totally different engagement mechanism. Assessment for hybrid learning, also add to that in applied education with reality, what can we do? And I'm glad to welcome all the discussion panels that will help us in this discussion. We start with Dr. Aisha Abdullah, the Vice President for Academic Affairs and the Executive Dean for Businesses. Dr. Aisha, we have heard from the President and CEO, we have learned from the Chief Academic Officers on hybrid education and hybrid learning and the experiences and the past journey of HCT during the past 10 months. Can you please shed the light and take us through the different achievements as well as challenges while HCT delivered its educational programs using the hybrid learning? Dr. Aisha, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Raya, and Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And a very good morning to all our colleagues that are joining us in this very timely webinar. Looking at the question of hybrid learning and what's happening in the digital transformation of higher education, as you're all aware, online and hybrid education was on the rise for the past decade. It was primarily driven by changes in student demographics, older students coming into the education system. It's driven by flexibility, the need for flexibility, and a huge part of this was cost considerations. But of course, the pivoting moment or the tipping point was the staggering impact of COVID-19 on the education system around the globe, which is unprecedented, and we have not seen anything like it before. There has been 1.6 billion students that went online post-COVID, which accounted for about 91% of the students in the world. This is data from UNESCO, and there was a huge uptake of an online enrollment. Historically, of course, like any other institution, and the COVID-19 had a huge impact on higher education, but education institutions, as we're all aware, have been very slow in taking up technology. Historically, evolution in higher education happened in what is called punctuated equilibriums. Long periods of relatively slow changes, which are intercepted with occasional moments of rapid adaptation and adoption of new methods. The current pandemic is indeed a tipping point or a punctuation moment. Educators from across the world were put in a situation where they had an unprecedented urgency of working hard to restore teaching and learning using technology very, very quickly. And this drove the big evolution that happened in higher education. What has also happened is the higher education institution faced a lot of competition from online providers. And as the pandemic hit, more and more companies like LinkedIn Learning, Coursera's, and others took a lead in this area. But the playing field, I think, is where a lot of changes were happening. The playing field was not equal for all the students across the globe, whether it was K-12 or higher education that were coming into this remote learning. And one key factor was the access to internet. I think in the case of HCT, we have been very, very fortunate that we live in a country that has high internet penetration, and most of our students had the necessary hardware and infrastructure at home to participate in the online learning. And for those that didn't, HCT and very quickly provided them access to computers, to softwares, the tools that they needed, so that they can participate. The other area I think that the student services did a fantastic job was in providing a provision for students that have students of determination, access to specialized tools so that they can also be a part of this journey. The other area I think was the pivoting the whole training and call centers, assistance for faculty to come up to speed, because many of the faculty did not have the experience using online tools, as well as also specific training on teaching online. So this is something, again, that the EdTech pivoted very quickly, and there was access both for students, training for students, as well as faculty. Then the project of the DigiCampus, which our president spoke about, and providing online services for the students were also critical for making that transition very, very smooth. And we also provided a communication channel for students to call if they had concerns, which were part of the call center. And a very important area also was the ability to listen to our students and to our faculty and do surveys whereby we got information about what was working and what was not, and that became a source of improvement. But as the hybrid education and the online education takes hold, it's going to be important for us to maybe look into the possibility of creating websites that will serve as a one-stop shop for technology and networking advice for our students and faculty and staff. It would also be useful to look at options where we look at how we can engage students again, so that they get more out of their hybrid learning and online learning. And this could involve using fourth year and third year students as in classroom engagement monitors that could monitor the level of engagement and work with the students that are perhaps struggling, because that is going to be important that we bring on new ideas into the classroom, and these students could get hours, volunteering hours for their services. But I think a very important area that had really helped HCT was unleashing faculty's creativity. Creativity, I think, was one thing that was really important in this transition, because again, it was, although we had the technology infrastructure, the faculty were used to teaching face-to-face, so they had to quickly pivot their delivery to online, and some of the creativity that came from the faculty was fantastic. People experimented, they used different types of technology to enhance the students' learning. And I think an area that we need to, as we experiment further and further with the hybrid learning, is to look at the seamless student experience. It's going to be about creating learning communities within our systems. And this, I think, will be very, very important as we expand the hybrid offering and we bring more students back to the campus. But I think it's also important that we use the faculty that are already, and faculty and staff actually, that are well adversed with and have extensive experience teaching online, to become mentors, and then we empower them. We give them all the resources that they need, and we give them the decision-making latitude to adapt new solutions and train the other faculty. This is, I think, is going to be important, because that is going to accelerate the diffusion of learning within the within HCT. And we can also explore new tools that are available now, such as Course Match, which is a machine learning tool. We can bring labs to the students by using virtual labs. And these are going to be very important in order for us to be able to move and pivot the hybrid learning. But I think the faculty also need to use something I call the, let's call 3C framework, which is they have to develop new skills. It is no longer about just, you know, teaching your face-to-face class in a synchronous mode. It's a question of faculty becoming what is called, they become creators, they become curators, and they become connectors. And this is, of course, very, very important to engage diverse learners in an online environment. As creators, of course, they have to put together the most appropriate material that they're teaching and they're designing, As curators, the faculty enhance student understanding and help them make sense of key academic concepts and engage with them. And I think the third and the most important role is the role of the faculty as connectors. This is, I think, which is going to be very, very important in the online, and both the online as well as the hybrid, is that they connect students with key concepts, they engage them in critical debates, so that the students are encouraged to explore further the topic that is being discussed, and for them to debate with their peers, and for them to additionally take on additional research, so that they can achieve a state where they understand the material. Hybrid learning, in order to be successful, would have to have the human element. So the key is the human connection. I think as we look at online learning and we look at hybrid learning and we look at combinations of these learning modalities, it's going to be important that we pay close attention to the human connections. Hybrid learning, if it were to thrive, the most important thing would be that it is going to be a solution for an interconnected world where people still feel lonely and unconnected. And humans being social beings, it is going to be very important that we have these human connections. And I think this is even more pronounced during the pandemic, where we should bring as faculty and staff a sense of compassion and empathy, both to our students and faculty interaction. That interaction is very, very important. And we need to understand what our faculty and students are going through. I think it would be a mistake for faculty to assume that everything is normal and students are not dealing with personal challenges. And this, of course, does not mean that we give them additional grades, but to understand and empathize with them and listen to their concern. And I think the same applies to all our faculty and staff members, as they also will be dealing with many challenges that's brought upon us due to the pandemic, but also in an online environment where there is a limitation to human connection. It's the virtual classrooms. It is any opportunity where the faculty can connect with their students and creating avenues for students to communicate. So where do we go from here? I think that's important. In order for HCT to thrive, we have to build a mature digital ecosystem. Organizations are in a different level when it comes to their digital transformation. Some of them are beginners or digital newcomers. Fortunately, we are not in that category, where they have very little experience in teaching online and lack the digital infrastructure. The others are emerging adapters, and these are universities that have successfully experimented with online learning, and they have the good, they've already have the communication and collaboration tools in place. And I think we're a little, we're beyond that. And then finally, there's the advanced institutions. These are ones that have robust technical infrastructure, and definitely HCT is in that category. But it's not only the technical infrastructure that is going to help us make this hybrid education succeed. It is going to be many other opportunities that we need to create, and one of which is the human aspect, the training of the faculty and staff. So in these, things that HCT can do, the opportunities that exist, is we have an opportunity, and we've already have undertaken a big project in the summer, which was the digital content development project, where we have created some digital content. But I think it's going to be important for us to create large catalog of digital content. We also have to train the faculty so that they're well versed on teaching online. Again, I think I would also advocate for us creating a dedicated center for academic innovation that is focused on digital tools and digital strategy. The other area I think that is going to be also very important is to look at the use of data. How do we know what is working and what is not working, especially on the student front? There are, of course, now softwares that will help us identify students that are struggling, and they will flag potential problems that the students are having, whether it's late submission of assessment or whether they are, logging into their Blackboard. Are they viewing their material? Are they contributing in discussion boards? These tools, I think, will be very, very important when we look at how we move forward and how we can make our hybrid learning more successful. But I think—
Apologies, Dr. Aisha. I think we, for the sake of giving opportunity and the limited time allowed to the session.
Yeah, I will just conclude very quickly. Sure. I think the most important thing is then to look at whether we need the 4-year and campus experience, and what would be the new norms, and most important will be the student mindset and behavior and how we can change this. But I think really what is important to mention here is universities that build digital capabilities will have the resilience to seamlessly pivot through any crisis, whether it's an extended COVID-19 outbreak or any future calamities that might come our way. So from a risk mitigation perspective, hybrid education is the way forward. And the future belongs to those that are prepared. So thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Aisha. We pick up from the last digital resilience. Dr. Hanan, I would like to you to shed the light on digitization of education. And we're not talking only on the digital content development. Dr. Aisha has just mentioned the assignment project that took place last summer. We would like to know what would the digital space in general be able to offer to applied education, all the opportunities, what will be the requirement, whether in terms of infrastructure, whether in terms of faculty training, whether in terms of introducing new pedagogy. Dr. Hanan.
Thank you, Dr. Ra'a. Assalamu alaikum. Hello, everybody. Let us first start by fixing a definition of digital content in our context. In the higher education context, okay, digital content is used to refer to the contribution of multimedia, okay, for end users. End users, okay, two main at least, okay, end users, the faculty, okay, who are the developers of digital content as a means to support course delivery. I insist on support course delivery. And so it's not replacing the faculty. And for learners, digital learning resources are materials included in a course to support their achievement of the described learning goals. And when we say, okay, digital materials, these consist of a wide variety of digitally formatted resources, including graphics, images, photos, audio and video sequences, discussion boards, blogs, which means what? Which means now me as a faculty, a developer of digital content, I need to have this additional expertise in multimedia, okay, content development. So it's not just pedagogy, it's not just mastering my technical field of knowledge. Me as a faculty, I also need to acquire this extra expertise in developing multimedia content. Of course, I'm not going to come back on the advantages of incorporating digital content or having the digital content included in the educational journey. Briefly, okay, as Dr. Abdullatif has mentioned, okay, the Uber-like education. higher learner engagement, okay, and for us also faculty tracked learning progress. Next, please. So to discuss, okay, digital content at HCT, okay, we can talk about it in two stages, the pre-pandemic and the post-pandemic stage. So pre-COVID-19, HCT has already, okay, started investing in building expertise and IT infrastructures for the digital learning era. This includes, okay, the adoption of Blackboard as the official LMS, offering access to various tools and different types of resources, including e-textbooks, which become or have been made, okay, more accessible and easily linked to other forms of learning material that we offer to our students. Also to help, okay, faculty acquire expertise in using, okay, or producing digital content. Several, okay, professional development courses were offered by EdTech under the umbrella of teaching with technology. And, okay, set of, okay, PD hours have already been set, okay, for every faculty from the minimal requirement 40 credit hours, so that they invest in acquiring skills related to teaching with technology. Another initiative is, okay, in 2019, as HCT has started the Blackboard e-teacher certification initiative. Again, this is towards building the expertise needed into deploying digital or delivering digital content. Also, okay, within the EdTech department, HCT has formed the an e-content development team, okay, with the mandate to support in digital content development. So many initiatives have been already there prior to the pandemic arrival. Next, please. Post-pandemic, these initiatives of HCT have been reinforced, and HCT has rolled out several initiatives to support the hybrid delivery model, whose success heavily relies on digital learning resources, who again would be developed by faculty. As examples, okay, of initiatives, as of March 2020, okay, the EdTech has offered, okay, more relevant, okay, PD courses for faculty. In summer 2019-30, as Dr. Aisha has mentioned, okay, HCT allocated a budget of around 680,000 dirhams for the digital content development of 46 courses across all divisions, and most of these courses have already been utilized to deliver hybrid model courses in starting the fall. Also in the fall, the engineering lab instructors converted on-campus engineering labs into fully online experiences. And this required, okay, a lot of effort from their parts to learn the technology needed, okay, besides knowing, okay, their technical material. In January 2020, okay, under the patronage of the Ministry of Education, the general study has successfully rolled out, okay, or adopted the first 100% online course at HCT for the under the Emirati Studies fully online course initiative. And this course actually is shared, okay, with sister universities, the AUU University and Zayed University, which is a huge undertaking by the general studies faculty to offer courses that mix, okay, self-paced and also Blackboard and synchronous, okay, Blackboard collaborate sessions. Various other initiatives, they're signaling me, okay, time, but I'd like to also highlight we're moving forwards, okay, with this digital content with a very interesting initiative, okay, immersive experiences in teaching and learning, where the EdTech people will be looking into using interactive 360 media, virtual reality, among other tools to offer more interesting and more engaging, okay, learning experience. So several, okay, next please. Several initiatives have already started, okay, towards building expertise, but also succeeding into the transition into the hybrid model, delivery model at HCT. The way forward, okay, yes, we've had these experiences, okay, the success in the future heavily depends on us, okay, analyzing how well did we do, okay. The experience needs to be analyzed thoroughly to assess the impact of digital content in our applied programs, the acceptance of our students, okay, of the digital content, the way we have been producing it, okay. We also need to start sharing the gained, okay, knowledge and expertise, both across divisions, but also with other institutions. Like the applied media, okay, faculty here, they have a lot of expertise that can be utilized into assisting digital content development. Last but not least, okay, as I mentioned in the beginning, digital content production requires skills, specific skills beyond pedagogy, beyond, okay, the technical knowledge that we already master as faculty, of course. We need, okay, to learn how to use specific authoring tools, which fortunately HCT has provided for us. However, okay, learning these two, mastering these new tools, and also producing high quality digital content, okay, to be utilized, okay, appropriately within our applied programs is time consuming. So we need to fully engage with faculty, provide for them the framework, okay, through which they will be able to develop the high quality digital content to succeed in making our learners, okay, achieve their learning goals. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hanan. Appreciate it very much. We move now to the real part of the applied education, which is the challenge when it comes to hybrid education, and that's the hands-on training and practicums. I would like to start with Dr. Saoud Al-Daja, who is the Executive Dean for Engineering. Dr. Saoud, definitely when you have to develop students' skills and competencies dealing with the real life situations and environment, how do you do it? What do we do in order for the hybrid learning deliver and guarantee that learners are achieving what they're supposed to be achieved? Dr. Saoud.
Thank you, Dr. Ra'i, and thank you for this opportunity to share with the colleagues at HCT the hybrid learning, hands-on training specifically, and how we look at it. Let me just start by touching on the points that you raised, Dr. Ra'i. We are applied engineering, and the way we are basically working now, we are revamping our engineering technology curriculum. And we are looking at 6 different domains. First one is the labs. We are introducing more labs to our curriculum. And we are also examining the lab delivery mode. Prior to the pandemic, the way or the style of running the experiment was demonstrational style. We are enforcing now it's applied, meaning that the students have to apply and do the experiment by themselves, because this is a hands-on training, basically. Also, we are working with our students to improve our labs. We are reallocating equipments from one side to the other to ensure uniformity. We are also looking into reforming the work placement. Instead of having it 6 credit hours, we are now planning to make it 12 credit hours, full semester long, to give the chance for our students to gain the skills and the competencies in the actual workplace. We also introduced the practical assessment as a part of the labs. And the reason I'm bringing this up, because this is one of the main challenges that we face when we run the hybrid model, and I will touch on it in the next slide very, very soon. In every single course for the engineering curriculum, there are projects. These projects, most of them are hands-on, wherever is applicable. And also in the second year, towards at the end of the second year, we are introducing what we call industrial work experience preparation, which is a 6-week module like industrial work experience that will be introduced by subject matter experts from the industry. Next slide, please. So when we run such a system into what the hybrid model, of course, when we, as mentioned earlier by Dr. Alex, when we talk about the hybrid model, it is inevitable that the practical part must be on campus. But there are some challenges that we faced and we are facing. We'll talk about it. Let's take a look at the challenges that face the on-campus, which is a part of the hybrid training or the hybrid delivery model. So the in-campus, we require all students to do the practical part or the hands-on training on campus. One of the challenges that we face is the exceptions to attendance. Our students, not all of them will be able to attend the on-campus. Some of them will be excused for one reason or the other. So what we have to do, we have to prepare a digital version of the on-campus experiment or hands-on activity. The approach we did, and we started that last semester, we had our lab engineers being trained, and we thank Dr. Jihad for offering the training from his office. We had our lab engineers trained in digital development. We started assigning every single lab engineer in the engineering technology programs to start developing a digital content for every single course that is being taught and has a lab component. So we must have an alternative for the in-campus delivery for the excused students and for whatever future development that may come up in the future. But so this is one of the main challenges. This is the attendance. The second attendance is the work placement. And one of the initiatives that we took, and we have established a contact with a consulting company in Dubai. They are interested in developing a framework for online work internship programs, and that could be a feasible solution in times of pandemics, and it could be feasible for online work placements for companies that are online in nature. The other thing also, we are looking into virtual realities. And yesterday we had a meeting with Injazat. They demonstrated a very impressive state-of-art virtual reality work placement or hands-on experience. We really think that this could be the future, because it's more of app and a game-like application in which a student can do and execute an experiment in virtual reality, which is similar to some extent to a real life. The other challenge is the practical assessment. For again, I'm looking at the students who cannot come on campus. Those students are given the option, of course, if it is a FWA, final practical assessment, we can give them the option of doing a makeup, but also we have to have an online version for such students. Another challenge we faced is the software license issues. We were not prepared for this, and some licenses do not allow students to access softwares from outside, but that was resolved. So this is one of the challenges that we faced. On the other side, this hybrid learning provides some opportunities, and Dr. Abdullatif and Dr. Alex, Dr. Aisha spoke along these lines. We are a leading institute in hybrid learning, and at the worldwide level, I think we are among the top universities that are ready and can move forward right away with this hybrid learning model. By the way, we started this in the fall semester and we are implementing it this semester. Also, the other opportunity is to accommodate more students. Digital lab offering may allow more students to be included in a classroom. Also preparing students for the future. This is, whether we like it or not, this is the trend for the future. And hybrid learning will prepare the students for this. And I talked about the hybrid, the development of practical hands-on digital content that is being done by the engineers as we speak. With that, I conclude and I thank you all for this opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Saoud. Dr. Rabiha, if engineering is in fact depending or requires handling or working with machines and equipments and tools, I think, and requiring, of course, real environments for training and practicum, I think in the health sciences, it's no different, except we're dealing with human subjects instead of equipments and tools. How is it in the health sciences? Is it handled along the same direction that engineering is handling? Do we have different technologies? If you can, give us an idea of exactly how health sciences handle training and practicums.
Thank you, Dr. Ra'a. I'm very pleased to take you through the HS faculty experience in embedding the hybrid learning in a clinical education. Actually, the health science students are exposed to two types of hands-on experience through two different courses. One of them is the lab-based course. The theory component of each lab were given virtually through the blackboard using different softwares, and also some recorded videos prepared by the faculty and the clinical instructors. The hands-on training for the lab-based courses were conducted fully on campus and also using simulation technologies. For the assessment, all based assessment, lab-based assessment were conducted on campus. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. For the clinical-based courses, on campus, all the theory part was conducted on campus using the simulation lab with a minimum of 2 or 3 weeks each before the clinical rotation. So later on, the students were placed in approved clinical sites. In case of a student got a positive test, a virtual lesson were considered during the quarantine and followed by a makeup plan for the missed clinical days. For the assessment were conducted for the clinical based courses on campus and for the practicum on sites. Next slide, please. So what we have learned from this experience in health science faculty, the introduction of the online virtual laboratories exposes students to a new type of practical training opportunities in a risk-free environment, repeatable experimentation and simulation, which minimize the student time in the lab and maximize the time each student spends working on the competency skills, which make the hybrid learning model a good option for the lab-based courses. However, we recommend that the hands-on training to be done on campus. This is to ensure the satisfactory fulfillment of desired competencies. Regarding the practical and the clinical component, it is right that the simulation help us a lot to prepare students before they go for the rotation, but it is really a must that this could be conducted in the clinical science. This is to ensure shaping student competency skills aligned with the program learning outcomes and the stakeholders' need. So the hybrid model provided us the opportunity to look at the course assessment strategies from different angles. And it had made apparent evidence to think about how we evaluate and assess practical skills in students. The hybrid model also allows to maintain a steady engagement of both faculty and the students And this is by overcoming the prejudicial view that the hybrid learning is not as effective as conventional classroom training. Next slide, please. Working in environment that foster the teacher innovation continue to inspire our faculty to think beyond, or as we say, out of the box, and be more innovative. The pictures that you see in this slide are a number of applications that were prepared by a clinical instructor from EMS program, Mr. Shamik, based in Sharjah. These different apps help and facilitate the learning during the student work placement. It helped to document the student skills, the clinical hours, and also allows students to submit their clinical skills while they are on the field, and all the submission. And during the flip grid, the instructor can provide a real-time feedback and promote a student progression. Also in these apps, there are updated guidelines and informations about, example, American Heart Association, so students can use as a reference in patient treatment. In addition to that, there are a number of quizzes that are embedded in these apps, so students can learn and practice some clinical skills. Next slide, please. So the improvement we are looking for, first of all, is to maximizing the actual hands-on training by considering the hybrid model of theory to be delivered through the Blackboard using all the software and the resources available in HCT. Maximizing the simulation lab hours to minimize the student cognitive load and improve their clinical readiness. Integrating the hybrid model within the clinical rotation by giving students simulated real-life scenarios to improve their critical thinking and the clinical judgment. So it's very important to continue equipping our lab with the innovative technologies. This is to further deepen the knowledge and the skills of a student in modern ways and ultimately make our students more employable. Building internal partnership with other faculties is also important, and to share our experience and best practice with other HCT faculty. So enhancing the technological readiness of the teaching staff is very important during these emerging and new technologies.
Thank you, Dr. Rabiha. Appreciate very much. Now we move on the pedagogical aspect of it, classrooms versus online, different setups, different givens, different boundary conditions. And Dr. Phil, I hope that you can take us through what are differences and things that our instructors and faculty need to pick up on when considering pedagogy for the hybrid education learning. Dr. Phil?
Thank you, Dr. Arn. I was about to say the next slide. Wow, someone's faster than me. Okay, I have 6 minutes to try and describe, if you like, what Dr. R's hybrid applied education framework means for us in practice moving forward. And I'd just like to point out what I really like about it is there are no actual fixed hard lines on the framework. So it gives us that flexibility as we move around because there are no hard lines anymore. Next slide, please. So it's often said that Victorian education approach is still being applied in our 21st century classrooms. And I think if we look at delivery around the world today, the punctuation moment, the rapid change, the higher education evolution revolution that Aisha talked about has maybe happened technology, but in pedagogy, and obviously not everywhere, but we could have a third slide there on a picture there on the left, which just shows a straight knowledge transfer, teacher to student, empty shells delivery method. That is what we need to move away from, and which we in the HCT, I believe, are leading the way in doing so. But we need to reflect on our practice. Next slide, please. So these are facts and stats from the last few years about the traditional format of classrooms, the traditional lecture format of classrooms, but also delivery, the focus on information transfer. And these are worrying numbers. Yeah, I believe if we go into what we do in the HCT, the percentages are much lower, but we need to be the forefront of this change. Yeah, as Dr. Abdullatif said at the beginning, we have this opportunity moving forward, changing our perceptions, helping to overcome barriers, and making teaching and learning fun. Next slide, please. So moving forward, and really what I'm trying to do in this very, very short presentation is to try to generate discussion that goes beyond this very, very quick presentation. But these are questions that I think we need to be asking ourselves, need to be reflecting on what we do in our classrooms, and asking ourselves as faculty, are we forgetting the process of learning? Are we just focusing on a end assessment product? How can we work differently to make our classes more engaging, more interactive? How can we just have these discussions with colleagues from all over, especially when you look, next slide please, especially when you look at the teacher innovations that Rabiha came forward with from health sciences. Aisha talked about the unleashed creativity. We have pockets of brilliance all around. How can we start the raising of awareness of where those pockets of brilliance, and they're everywhere. How can we start building more discussion, raising of awareness of how we can develop our pedagogy, our approach to our methodologies, teaching, and impact our students' learning, and moving forward with a seamless student experience. In education, next slide, please. We've been specifically looking at a dynamic pedagogy and assessment model, which moves us from a pedagogy which has an assessment of learning product at the end, moves through an assessment for learning, which of course is looking at feedback on assessment and feed forward in preparation for the following assessment step, but really looking at assessment as learning, because assessment as learning is where we really start to address metacognition and the deep learning we need our students to start incorporating into their own self-regulation of their learning. Yeah. This has been the background of what we have been doing in education for the past nearly 18 months, maybe 2 years, through a curriculum healing and polishing, we've called it. The engineering, they called it the revamp, and it's a very similar approach where the pedagogy, curriculum, assessment is all intertwined. Next slide, please. The definition, I'm just going to focus on the little balls there. It's a focus on the process of learning that is interactionist, interventionist. It probes learners' cognitive and metacognitive processes during the assessment activity itself. So the assessment is in effect also a learning and a teaching tool. Next slide, please. Next slide, please, Summer. So our approach has been to look at both the curriculum and the mapping into the CLOs, PLOs, and how those impact both on the then week by week delivery framework, the content, but also the assessments therein. Next slide, please. Yeah, and this is included moving, our teaching practicum has moved online now for the 3rd semester in a row. Obviously not ideal, but with thanks to the Ministry of Education, we've now had all our students online through teaching. But that, in effect, then how does that impact assessment, and how do we adapt our assessments around that? Next slide, please. So I would like to throw out an open call to all of you listening, all 634 of you. I'd like to throw out this call and say, let's start conversations. Let's start interactive discussions across faculties out through the community. Let's build awareness, get involved, discuss, demonstrate, research, practice. Let's build these cross-divisional communities where we can build awareness and hopefully start these discussions between one another that build on all the strengths we've seen throughout the presentations this morning. Next slide, please. References that are behind our dynamic approach, and hopefully everyone that will trigger and inspire moving forward. So I can hand over now within my 6 minutes to Georgia, I believe, Raz.
Thank you, Phil, very much. Georgia, Dr. Georgia will pick up where almost Dr. Phil has ended up. Dynamic approach and assessment. One of the difficult challenges Dr. Abdullatif touched on, Dr. Alex touched on. Take us through that journey. Assessment in the hybrid learning. What does it require? Where are the challenges? Where are the opportunities? What is the approach? Dr. Georgia, floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Raya. We have had a little bit of experience now in general studies, maybe for 1 year before HCT got hit by the COVID pandemic. And we had a chance to experiment a little bit with assessments. And can you hear me? Okay, great. With the pandemic and trying to see what works, what doesn't work. So I just want to go through in this presentation very briefly some pointers or some keys to what we've been doing lately since the pandemic hit. We want to talk about realistic expectations. We want to talk about our experience that include quizzes, online face-to-face assessments, interactive lab simulations, and theoretical practical flaw. We also want to talk about how to enhance academic honesty and how to deal with formative assessments and suggestions for improvement. Next slide, please. This is, when we get to assessments, this is, I think, where we kind of hit a stumbling block sometimes, because delivering to the students is creative, it's fun, it's dynamic. Then we get to the point where we have to be consistent. Then we get to the point where we have to show students progress, and we have to show what we're doing to accreditors or to whoever is taking a look at our programs. And that means that this ends up being the part that a lot of people don't like that much. This ends up being the part that people are challenged by. So the first thing we need to do is we need to acknowledge the fact that exams are not ideal, and the situation that we're facing isn't ideal. We need to look at the strengths of the assessment types and of maybe the course and how it's delivered, and the past successes we've had, both face-to-face and online. We need to reduce the opportunities for academic dishonesty wherever possible, acknowledging that, you know, we have to really do our best. There will be students who are quite creative, and, you know, we can't lose the 99 hoping to catch the 1. So we have to really go forward with as much integrity as possible. We need to also assure fairness to all students. Okay, when I say fairness to all students, I mean that we need to take into consideration the kinds of intelligences that students have. Some students do good on quizzes, some students do good on reports, some students do good talking face-to-face and are communicative. So we have to be as engaging and as, you know, offer multiple ways to assess our students. So first we'll look at quizzes. Quizzes could be marked quizzes. This could be part of a formative assessment to give feedback to students. It could be at the end of a segment to do kind of a summative assessment, you know, like as a milestone. Okay, we could do a one-off quiz, or we could have it as a part of a series. I know sometimes we have maybe 10%, but that 10% is taken as a block where each week students have to participate to get a small portion of that. This kind of serves as a carrot and stick If the students do it, it's a carrot. If the students don't do it, it's a stick. It's up to them to, to perceive which way it is. And we like to engage students with assessment tools that are linked into the curriculum or they're linked into the delivery. Nearpod is a good example where, a little bit of content is given, then students can do a quiz to see if they've mastered it. Sometimes we don't allow them to proceed unless they retake the quiz and at least, they see their answers so they can advance once they get them right. That's kind of a way to learn through assessment, as Dr. Phil said. Also, we try to provide motivation in self-access materials and flipped lessons. We've had some experience now, maybe this is going on the 3rd year in general studies, where we've had 50% online and 50% in flipped lessons. And we do these little quizzes to assure that students do the flipped lessons. So the week before, we give them materials they have to do, and then before we begin the lesson, the next week, we quiz them. There's no repeat for those quizzes, just like there's no repeat for lost work if you don't show up every day. And we try to enforce these, or let's say reinforce these kinds of skills to students as necessary skills for their personal work, school, whatever. That these are essential for developing personalities and successes in the future. And we also use them to determine whether students need support. We have the Academic Success Program Center that's there for students, and teachers regularly volunteer there and refer students there. Next slide, please. We have online face-to-face interactive assessments as well. You can see the kinds that are there. We do these oftentimes when we have students produce a deliverable, and then we need to assure that the individual part of the student work has been done. We do this sometimes where students are put in groups to make sure that some students don't hide behind others. Next slide, please. Yes, and then we get to the FOI. We love the FOI. We've gone through cross-listed courses, and we try to assure the integrity of all the general studies courses, which could include 2,000 students at a time. We've gone to practical FOI, which we do earlier in the semester, ideally a week before the review week, so that teachers have enough time to mark these. We have very, very huge sections, and teachers need to have time to be able to mark and to reflect on what they're giving students in terms of grades. Next slide, please. Okay, this is sometimes difficult, but we try to put in little things to enhance academic honesty, like question polls, realistic time limits that aren't too long to have students have extra help. We have lingering issues here, which are makeup assessments. And I think this time we've had makeups and makeups and makeups. So we need to maybe get a handle on that as a system. And this misdirected creativity. Okay, we always say, I think, that if students spend as much time trying to get help as they, in their assessments as they do to master the content, they might master the content better. So we're trying to give students opportunities inside the class and with the formative assessments to learn. And if they don't, we give them a little indication of that so they can learn, through their journey rather than at the end. Next slide, please. Okay, suggestions for improvement. We really need to, I think, as the beginning of this forum started, we need to make sure that we're doing the best for our students in terms of knowing which assessments and which content are better delivered face-to-face and which are better delivered online. We are hybrid. We're not, we do some things completely online, but our system in general is hybrid. So why should we do something online for the sake of being online if it's more important and better to do it face-to-face? I can't promise that what I've said has been very sweet, but I've tried to make it short and fit in the time limit. Thank you very much.
Thank you indeed, Dr. Georgia. We were hoping to probably intern a question or two, but I think we don't have time. Anyway, these are the panel members are your colleagues. You can approach them at any time, as well as myself. If you need any part of their presentation or further discussion, you are more than welcome. Elizabeth, the floor is yours, and thank you very much for this opportunity.
Okay, a huge thank you to all of the panelists for their thoughtful reflections and sharp insights on hybrid learning, and to Dr. Ra'a for moderating the session. We now turn over the mic to Dr. Ahmed Sami, the Executive Director of Strategy and Future. for a presentation on HCT's new strategy cycle with panelists Dr. Adel Al-Amri, Dr. Jihad Mohaidat, Dr. Aisha Abdullah, and Nicola Batiu. This discussion will be followed by a live Q&A session, so listen intently and get your questions ready. Dr. Sami, welcome.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth, and a very good morning to all our colleagues, staff, and faculty, and to the entire HCT family. Very pleased to see that 63 of our colleagues have been awarded today and appreciated by the CEO. So a very well-deserved congratulations to all of them. This panel is going to be focused on the topic of our approach to the strategy development for the next 5-year cycle. I'll be talking to you about and giving you an introduction around why we're doing this, what is the approach, what are the deliverables expected, as well as our stakeholder engagement plan, and then how are we going to be engaging our staff, our faculty, and our students in this process moving forward. We also have our panelists, my colleagues, will be talking about the next level of detail as to the aspirations. Dr. Abdullatif in his presentation gave a preamble and a comprehensive overview of what those 4 strategic aspirations are all about. What we're going to do towards the end of this session is to give you some further details around the elements and really try to paint a picture of what those aspirations should look like. We have allocated 10 minutes at the end of this session for any questions that you may have. So please provide your questions into the Q&A section, and we will try to address all of them, again, depending on the time that we will have. So really to start by answering the why. Why are we talking about a new strategy now? Probably the majority of you would have been there back in 2015 or 2016, I would have to assume, when 2.0, HCT 2.0 was launched. At that time, the focus really was on the employability of our graduates. They came 2019, where HCT 4.0 was launched, and this is where we had some sort of an expansion of our mandate to start looking into graduating companies. But also when it comes to employability, the orientation towards private sector employment was very much embedded in our strategy. We, after a very famous year, 2020, and again, with all the achievements that were accomplished, but also a number of challenges that came out, and that's, for the entire world, there has to be another look into our strategic direction moving forward. And it's not just because of the new norm that we are all living and expecting to continue with us. It's also the government here in the UAE. They are looking into, this is the year of 50, they're the golden jubilee of the UAE, and they're looking into the next 50-year strategy, really taking the UAE to a completely different front, being the top and the best country in the whole world. So that will be very much cascaded to us and to all the federal and the government entities. You've seen in the purpose statement that Dr. Abdullatif presented that we're all about delivering on the national vision, the talent and skill incubator to deliver the national vision. So the national vision and the alignment to the national vision is very much crucial, and it does require a directional change in our strategy. And also we have a mandate from the government, from the Prime Minister's office, that every 5 years we come up with our new strategic plan. We've had the 17-21 plan, and now we're looking into the 22-26 strategic plan. Next slide, please. So stakeholder engagement, anyone really that has a stake in our strategy, be it external or internal, is one of our ethos. It's a primary principle in the way we develop a strategy. And when we look into the external side of things, ministries, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Human Resources and Amortization, Ministry of SMEs and Entrepreneurship, very critical and very important for our mandate, and we have to consult with them and get their feedback. Education regulators at the local level as well as the national level. Industry, our partners in the industry, our top employers, the chambers of commerce, as well as the startup funds, the local ones that we talk to and they support our startups. We need to consult with them. We need to get their feedback. We need to listen to their voice. But also, and equally important, is our internal stakeholders, and that starts with the management team and the board of trustees. They have been very much engaged over the past 4 or 5 months, trying to come up with the first deliverable for this strategic direction when it comes to the purpose, the new vision, as well as the aspirations. And starting January all the way till the end of March, they expect, as faculty, as staff, and as students as well, that there will be a lot of interventions by all the directors. All the executive deans have developed awareness and engagement plans to engage their own employees and also to engage the students. And in about a couple of slides, I'll be talking to you about how we plan to engage from a central perspective and system-wide, how we plan to engage our faculty and our staff and our students. Next slide, please. This is really, this slide, it tells you in a summary, basically what is the approach and what are the deliverables expected out of this year-long project. So the approach very much, if you look into this hourglass, it starts with the looking into the external environment. Lots of good, significant amount of strategic foresight work has been done over the past 18 months or so, just to try to understand the socioeconomic scheme of things that we are all living through, and also the implications of the pandemic and other mega trends. Again, the national strategies, very important input. The landscape of the education sector at the global and the regional and the local level. And then then comes the internal development of things. And that's where those deliverables come on the right side of this slide, the purpose and the vision. We've already had a go with that with the Board of Trustees, and we're now looking specifically into the new vision statement. We expect as well, as part of the deliverables, that there will be a strategic plan, an annual operating plan. We have focus areas, and each one of those areas will have its own strategy. An example of that would be education to employment, which is now going to be more into education towards careers, as you have seen in the aspiration number 1, and we will talk about that later on. But also we have other focus areas related to entrepreneurship, industry engagement, applied research, and the rest of it. We look into our dashboards, our performance contracts for every single department and campus. We will review that, and then the annual operating plans for our departments and campus. And that's really the cascading or the translation of the institutional strategy to operational terms. Next slide, please. This is a timeline for all the deliverables and the expectations around when what will be delivered. And a couple of things that I would like to bring to your attention here. The institutional strategic plan is expected to be out there approved in April. In June, we should have the institutional operating plan. And then everything will follow all the way towards September in terms of cascading the strategy into operational terms. The second thing that I would like to bring to your attention here is that we have a governance around this strategy development process. It really starts with the executive committee reviewing and endorsing. We also have a committee that has been established by the Board of Trustees. It's the steering committee, the strategy steering committee, that endorses any deliverable that requires the approval of the Board of Trustees. And obviously the Board of Trustees at the top, approving our vision, our purpose, and the institutional, strategic, and operational plan. Next slide, please. This is what I was referring to when we were talking about stakeholder engagement, in particular for our staff and faculty and our students as well. It's a challenge that has been created on our HCT Innovate platform. And it really, the purpose of this really is to source as many ideas as we can from our staff, our faculty, and our students with regards to those initiatives, those improvements, those projects that you believe HCT should take forward to address any of the 4 strategic aspirations. Everything that is required to set up that challenge has been created, and all we need to do this week really is to announce it. And we hope that we will be getting some good traction and some really good input. We really seek your input, and again, across the board, in any of the challenges or in all 4 of them, in any of the aspirations or in all 4 of them, to give us an idea, a brief description of what you believe HCT should take forward to achieve any of these aspirations. So we look forward to your input in that regard. Next slide, please. So this is the slide that was again presented by Dr. Abdullatif with a comprehensive view of what these aspirations are really about. What we want to do now is for each one of these aspirations, we have the next level of detail where we start talking more about, its key components, the factors that we would like to avail in a way that allows us to achieve that aspiration in its entirety. It's the translation of that aspiration to the next level of detail, pretty much. And we have 4 strategic aspirations, and we also have in our panel 4 leaders from HCT that will be talking to you about each one of those. So I will start with the first aspiration. Dr. Adel Abdi will be walking you through that, and it's about, as it says, education towards wealth-creating careers. So I'll hand it over now to you, Dr. Adel. And really the essence of this aspiration, we had a strategy that talks about education to employment. It's one of our focus areas, one of our focus strategies. We're now talking about education towards careers, and not any careers, it's those careers that create wealth for our graduates and ultimately wealth for the nation. So if you can shed some light on this one, please. Over to you, Dr. Adel. You're muted, Doctor. Dr. Adel, you're muted. Here we go.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone, and thank you again. As we are moving to the afternoon, what a day that started with the inspirational statement from our President and CEO, and then we all celebrated the pioneers and those among us who deserve to be recognized. And then we had informative session with Dr. Alex, going to the panel into more details in the core of our business, academic, and what does hybrid education mean to those different areas that was discussed. Education toward wealth-creating careers. We all agree there are literature requesting more relevant, and relevancy here in terms of what we see in front of us here, credentials. How, when we move forward with more the life and the world of work requesting skills, requesting competencies, shorter period of learning, on and off, going to learning institutions and then going back to the world of work, acquiring the more application of the skills and competencies, and then coming back, learning pathways. So relevancy is not only the content itself, but also relevancy to the need of the individual, relevancy to the need of the industry in terms of more flexible in and out, learning pathways, shorter modules that cater towards certain skills in that occupation. Definitely, with all that ahead of us and all these needs and requests there, we need to look at our curriculum, how we are going to respond to these needs, our programs in terms of that relevancy to the careers. And here by careers, please, in the context of HCT, full-time job in the private sector is a career. Freelancing is a career, a startup is a career. So our definition of a career is into a context that we define, and we will have a better understanding as we look at all those aspirations, the 4 aspirations. But career goes beyond just employment. Focus on skills and competencies is very important. How are we going to be offering those skills and competencies at the same time, the academic rigor? What about badges, micro-credentials, how they fit, how do we make it integrative in our model of offerings? I think I will just stop here and leave for the session of question and answer, or you can post questions, and if we don't have time to answer them, we can, inshallah, attend through our strategy team and then respond to the whole HCT community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now move on to the second aspiration, which talks about personalized anytime, anywhere education. That's a concept that was very much pioneered, a couple of years ago, as was introduced by Dr. Abdullatif, and Dr. Jihad will be the one to walk us through this one specifically. So over to you, Dr. Jihad.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Okay, assalamu alaikum, everybody. And with this second aspiration of the personalized anytime, anywhere education and service, just before I start the details of that aspiration, I just want to bring your attention to a specific fact that technology life cycle is probably now being much faster than the education life cycle. So in other words, what I'm trying to say here is by the time a student starts in the first year with the university in a contract, for example, to be trained in a specific skills at the end of the four-year program, the skills are probably changed because the technology has changed. And the problem is the employer requirements are changing as technology is changing. There is also a tendency that companies and big ones in particular are starting to focus on what is the skills and competencies that an employee is having instead of what degree they are having. So from that perspective, okay, what we are anticipating is that the whole game of the higher education offering will be changing dramatically over the coming few years, in which the student, okay, will be actually looking at what is it the skill that the industry is needing, and he or she will be going to specific institutions offering the environment to gain such skill or such competency rather than a degree. Okay, so from that perspective, okay, there might be several modules where let's say that skill being offered by different institutions. So the student or the potential employee will be gathering those skills from the different places until he or she fulfills the skills requirements. So from that perspective, I would expect in the coming a few years that students or universities will not be offering, okay, degrees. They'll be offering modules. And students or let's say, if you want to call them clients, if you want to move to the business arena, they will be targeting specific modules to fulfill the skills requirements. The game of engagement between student and industry will change. It used to be between industry and the institution, okay? However, I believe that the game will change now to be between the industry and the employee, the potential employee. This whole thing will sum up on how the relationship will change based on these given circumstances. I believe the next period will be technology intensive offering between the institution and the learner, because a learner will seek the skills requirement from anywhere in the world, from any faculty in the world. So now it is the time to deploy in action open education platforms. I just want to comment here before I start the details of these, which is going to be very fast, on the panel discussion that we went earlier with, which I correlate with my colleagues here, on learning from the experience. But I just want to bring their attention to a very, very simple thing. I think time is not in our favor. We want to learn fast, we want to move faster, and the changes will be faster and faster. So the level of dynamics that will be involved in this operation will be dramatically different than what it used to be. And the way academics change or response time of change will have to be much faster than what we are using to. So from that perspective, okay, the first pillar of such personalized education is the students themselves. So we need to go to an environment where students need to learn the way they want to learn rather than the way we want to teach them. We have to have platforms, adaptive platforms in particular, for them to learn through systems with the assistance of faculty members and gaining what they want to learn based on industry needs. In order for us to be able to track, because people now will be coming into modules, so you would expect you would have institutions will have hundreds of thousands of students rather than individual programs. So you would have to have the ability to track those students. That will never be able to happen without big data platforms. And fortunately, with HCT, we started the big data platforms about a couple of years back, and we start gaining and using those platforms now. Those will enable us as a building block to move to the next stage when we have to track every single student. So we built the infrastructure requirements to get to that stage. In order for you to be able to for the systems to be able to pinpoint who is doing what and who is in what issue, okay, artificial intelligence layers will be augmented over big data platforms, okay, to able to track every single student and be able to resolve some of the issues that the institutions are suffering from, particularly around efficiency and flexibility. In this domain, faculty will change as well. Okay, their role will no longer be instructors. Okay, even though at one point in time they will need that particular skill of instruction, but nonetheless, the focus of their role will be more of a mentor, will be more of a coach, because in that end, they'll have to certify whether the student has gained that particular skill or that particular competency, okay? So their role is more of a coach. Remember, okay, when we said it is a student and the way they want to learn rather than the way we want to teach them, have in mind, most likely the role of the structure of a semester, the structure of a course over 4 months period will disappear. So a skill or a module, you will find students finishing that module in a month and others will finish it in 2 years. So that model will change, accreditation systems will change, the way the student will finish will change. So in that case, you will have to coach every individual student rather than them together at one lump sum. In other words, one size fits all is no longer applicable. And in that case, you will have to treat each student individually, or what faculty or education faculty will know, which is differentiated learning, will have to be implemented without choice. Flexibility is crucial as well in this domain. So instead of institutions having a structured degree program with specific courses, prerequisites, etc., move from one area to the other, that will also disappear. You will have a plethora of modular, flexible curricula, modules available, and a learner will have to choose, okay? Whatever suits his career, whatever suits the skills required for his job. If you combine several modules together, you will be able to gain a degree, for example, based on your choice. So it's more of institutions, instead of a specific degree, they will tell you those modules together will grant you this credential. If you move to a different level of modules together, will offer you a different credential based on your choice, based on over how long you want to take it, etc. Okay, there will be a lot of inter-institution collaboration, because you will have a student will gain courses from a different institution, and all these systems will have to talk to each other in order for an issuing institution credential to allow or to, let's say, incorporate modules gained from other institutions as well. So flexibility is a crucial system as well. Virtual spaces also will be crucial, particularly for the hands-on and simulation tools, okay, for the student to be able to live in a physical-like environment. Okay, establishing of virtual spaces and inclusion of immersive technologies will be crucial in order to gain the specific skills required. So these are the main pillars of the coming strategy of Uber-like or personalized education in the coming strategy over the 4 years. So we will start seeing the implementation of some of those or most of those within the next year or two at most, such that we expect to be mature with such business within the coming 4 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Jihad. Let's move on now to the third aspiration. And that's where we talk about the relevant and socially engaging student journey. This is by all means a game changer for HCT, despite the tremendous efforts that has been done to try to socially engage the students in the learning process. There's a lot to be done as well over the next few years. So I'll hand it over to Dr. Aisha to walk us through the main elements of this aspiration. Over to you, Dr. Aisha.
Good afternoon, everyone, again, and thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Like Dr. Ahmed just mentioned, really this pillar or this aspiration is at the core of what HCT is about. It is how do we create a student journey where our students are not relevant to their society, relevant to the industry, and also create a journey from within HCT where the student experience become one that is memorable. First component in this journey is the spaces at the university or the HCT campuses across the system. And it is going to be very important that we look at how do we create spaces that encourage learning, spaces where students can meet, socialize, engage, both physically and also, especially now that we are going into the hybrid environment, it's also we have to create online spaces where students can interact and communicate and engage. And some of the ideas around these spaces is we create spaces that it's the design of the spaces that impact how people feel about their spaces. So for example, when we're renovating new spaces, it would be best that we look at how these spaces connect to nature. We make use of the green spaces that we have. We open it to the community wherever possible. When we're restoring spaces or building a new campus, we want to be looking at this campus is connected. It's also a green campus. We use sustainable material, and it's also an open campus. Open campus we'll come to when we deal with community, but it's a place where people can come, and that design and that interaction between what the campus is and what it offers is going to be important in order for to engage students. The other area is the actual campus that we already have, and how do we then re-engineer the spaces that are available to us, whether it's the library or whether it's coffee shop spaces or corridors that we filled with interactive screens, or maybe run fairs where students can visit, spaces that faculty and students can enjoy. And we also redesign spaces now that we're going to go, hybrid. And what are we going to then be doing with these physical spaces? The key in all of these things is when we really engineer these spaces around what we need, we have to think about the technology integration, that it has to be a connected campus, but also make it flexible, because as things will change with time, and we want to make sure that we capture these change, and we have a modular system that is flexible and is and that we can change as and when we need to, because as we found out very quickly in the past year, that it is very, very easy to plan, but there are things that are sometimes completely outside our control when it comes to planning. Another very important component in this journey is how do we bring the community into the student journey, and how do students interact with community. Universities everywhere in the world are cultural institutions. This is where they're involved in their local communities. They create spaces for them to use, and they're open to the public. And I think this is something that HCT should. They provide lectures for the community. This could be online and free lectures or face-to-face lecture, provide facilities for the community to use, and also work on research that our students can be a part of, our faculty can be a part of. And when we talk about here engagement of students, our faculty and our staff are also a part of that journey to a large extent, because they benefit from the environment we provide. And research that is relevant. We are part of the economic development of the communities in which we operate, but also opening our students not only to volunteer and to work with the communities, but work on community projects, which is already happening at HCT. A lot of our capstone is coming from industry, but also not only from industry, but from the community, because communities also have needs. Some, of course, programs are more positioned than others to deal with that. But I would also recommend that we open volunteering for our faculty and staff. When people give, it's rewarding. It builds the brand image, and it builds HCT and position as a caring organization, an organization that is linked with their community. Another part of this journey is this whole interaction between the HCT and the wider community. So this could, whether it's parents or industry, alumni, partners, government, whatever it may be. This interaction is very, very important, and companies call this customer experience. This is where you improve how, in the case of our students, for example, our retention, and we improve satisfaction, we improve the satisfaction of our faculty, and it has to be multi-channel. So we have to use all the communication tools that are available, such as, we have to have an interactive website that is welcoming and, informative, live chats. Social media, I think, is the big one, and HCT is doing a fantastic job there. But I think it's more, again, engaging a wider set of stakeholders to not only showcase what we are doing, but also to tell them about what is happening within HCT. I think HCT is doing a lot of things, but we need to communicate and bring the community and the different stakeholders, into that fold. Another thing that we need to look at is into creating a uniform experience. So a lot of companies use what is called a uni-channel experience, or they invest in uni-channel experience. And this, I think, is very important, because the faculty or the students or any stakeholders that visit our campus should have similar experience across HCT. And this, again, will contribute to our branding. And what can help us with that is a CRM. And I think HCT is already have invested in a CRM, and that is going to come online fairly quickly. But more and more also, we have to provide our services online and make sure that these services are available to our students so that we then, eliminate any pain points that they may have. Another important thing is the students themselves and what we can do to engage these students and make sure that they are good citizens, that they care about their communities, they're connected with their community, we build character, we position them to be global citizens, to be tolerant, and more importantly, to be competitive. We teach them grit, we teach them failure is an opportunity to improve, to learn, and it's just a setback and you can move forward. And we teach them all the tools that they need, like the caring, the compassionate, critical thinking, communication, all these important things that are important in character building, which is going to be also a very important factor. Now, when it comes to engaging our students, I think the big factor will be eliminate, say, all the pain points that our students face. We have to make sure that we provide extra curriculum activities, that we cater for students with different needs. We care for the students with special needs, as well as students that have special talents, whether it's music or sports, or so having other extra activity, recreational, outside, academia kind of an activity, I think will also engage our students and make it the university experience memorable. We want to give student choices, whether they, the courses that they choose, or remove pain points from their journey. And this will only happen if we're listening to our students, if we're constantly at every touch point interacting with them, saying, what do you think? Give us ideas. What is working? What isn't working? And feeding that back into the improvement of our processes and upgrading our system. Long gone are the days when organizations believe that they know what people need. Not only do we need to listen to our students, but we have to help them imagine a new possibilities, things perhaps that they didn't think about. And this will happen if we co-create this journey with them, because they will tell us what is important. And I think another important factor is giving students voice, that they can communicate, that they have a platform, that they can voice their opinion, and give them, like Dr. Jihad just said, an opportunity to personalize their journey, their education, and ask them why they're here, and as much as possible, and make sure that our student journey is not only uniform, it's consistent, it's impactful, but most importantly, that it's memorable, that students, our alumni, when they go into the world, will become our goodwill ambassadors. They will advocate for us. They will be our communication channel. There will be free marketing, free branding, and they will celebrate the time that they spend here at HCT. And this is the responsibility of everyone in HCT, whether it's people in student services, the campus management, the faculty that engages with students. And I would say the faculty, I think, play a very important role, because the best teachers are teachers who care about their students, who connect with them. When I think about faculty that I remember, it's the faculty that cared about me, who asked me, what was going on in my life, if I was struggling, or if I had a concern that I could go to. Keep your doors open, keep the lights on for our students, and I'm sure it will be a natural byproduct for us to have a relevant and socially engaging student journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Aisha. The last but not least, for sure, is the strategic aspiration number 4. We're talking here about launching startups with economic impact. Back in 2019, when HCT 4.0 launched, that was the time when another goal for HCT about graduating companies as well was established. Now we're looking into the next 5 years, and we're talking about instead of graduating companies, we're calling it launching startups with economic impact. So I would like to hand it over now to my colleague Nicola to walk us through this specific aspiration, and also to tell us how is that different, if any, from graduating companies. Over to you, Nicola.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed. I'm the last one with the last slide after 3 hours of session. I hope the level of attention is still there. If not, well, I will try to do my best in order to make what I'm going to say interesting. So building knowledge, nurturing knowledge for universities and higher education institutions is something that is already part of the past. Even creating skills or creating new skills is something that is already widely adopted by all universities worldwide. What is really the challenge for most educational institutions, higher education institutions today, is to make sure that whatever is done internally, both in terms of producing the right quality of students, or doing the right research, or generating spin-outs, is to generate economic impact. So again, we're living very challenging times. Generating economic impact is important. It's always been important, but it's becoming more important today. So COVID-19 has been a one-in-a-lifetime disruption, like a war, like a major financial crisis, and it has brought very bad news for many sectors. So let's think about airlines, or transportation, or food and beverage, hospitality. There are so many sectors that have been so heavily impacted by COVID-19. At the same time, it has been the source of growth for many other sectors, and we tend to forget that. So we are using today Zoom. Zoom at the beginning of 2010 had a market capitalization that was 1/10 of what it is today. So the value of the company has grown 10 times in 1 year. Amazon, so e-commerce, has doubled in terms of size in 12 months. So again, major disruptions, major economic disruptions are there to create bad news for certain sectors, but very good news for other sectors. And very often innovation comes from where we are, from universities, come from the research, the innovation we're creating, comes from the startups we're generating. So I think that in a way, all the efforts we can do around entrepreneurship, and in a certain measure also apply research, are really those that will bring the good news for the society. So let me go through the different actions that we are planning to put in place for the next 5 years. Again, these are themes that we will be developed in the next few months when we will fine-tune the strategic plan. So the first point, I will start clockwise from the left, industry partners. Again, I've been advocating a lot opening HCT to the outside world, and making sure that we are engaging our industry partners as much as possible with applied research, but also with entrepreneurship. We need to make sure that our B2B startups are properly serving needs of the industry fabric of the UAE. I'm thinking about the oil and gas industry, I'm thinking about renewables, I'm thinking about transportation, food and beverage, hospitality. I mean, there are very important sectors in the UAE that needs in a way to be served by our startups. So we want to see our industry partners to come on board, making sure that they are engaged in the startup development process, that they are aware of the startups we are creating, they are partnering with them, they're creating business, they're generating business for these startups. And in a way, they're giving us the inspiration to generate new businesses with our startups. The second point is whatever is linked to, let's say, the academic part of the equation in launching startups with economic impact. Of course, again, providing entrepreneurial training within the academic setup is important. What we would like to see more and more are capstone projects that are aligned with this objective. We want to see capstone projects that have business potential. We want to see capstone projects that can translate into startups. We would like to see the faculty and the students involved in these capstone projects becoming entrepreneurs. This is fundamental. We cannot afford to have a sterile capstone projects, so purely academic capstone projects. What we need to do is to make sure that we are, in a way, with the project that the students are working on, responding to something that is demanded by the society, by the market, by the industry. The other point is making sure that the skills we are creating with our students are ready to be used by our startups. Our startups cannot afford to have on-the-job training. Our startup need accountants, and they need accountants that are able to run the accounts of a startup tomorrow, not in a few months' time. Our startup needs an engineer, and engineer needs to be able to design and to manufacture or to produce prototypes. We need to have ready-to-use skills for our startups. We cannot afford to have people that are, students that are graduating and not being able to be immediately used by our startups. Again, the startup, we are trying to do something with the work placement initiative. So we are bringing our students to be closer to our startups. It has been exciting on one side because we had lots of response from our students in joining our startups. At the same time, challenging because we saw that most of the students or some of the students were not prepared at all to provide any value to the startup. And this is something we need to work on. So creating the right set of skills that are immediately usable by startups. The third point is early stage funding. We are today in a good shape to provide pre-seed funding up to 50,000 dirham to all of our startups. And we are doing it extensively. So as Dr. Abdullatif mentioned, we have been launching quite a bunch of startups. Most of them received some support in terms of pre-seed funding. This is not enough. University startups are very risky for investors. So in every major higher education institution all over the world, there are internal funding mechanisms in order to provide support, financial support to startups. So there will be something very important is going to happen in the next few weeks. So we are partnering with a major funding agency in the UAE that will cover in a quite a substantial way this aspect. Fourth point, students, involvement of students. I've been repeating for a long time that entrepreneurship is an elite sport. Is not a sport for everyone, but we want to create this elite. We want to make sure that HCT is creating this elite among the students all over the Emirates. We are not creating again students with amazing knowledge or with top skills only. We want to have them, all of them, to be exposed in a certain shape or form to entrepreneurship. Entrepreneurship is one of the richest learning experience that one can have. Is even if you abandon it because you're failing or because you're deciding to push a different career. So what you learn in being an entrepreneur is becoming more resilient, more brave, more courageous, more bold in whatever you do. And even if you join a big corporation, all this kind of experience will be with you and it will be very important. So again, we want to involve as many students as possible in our programs. Global access. So the Emirates is becoming more and more a worldwide center for innovation. And we want to make sure that HCT is becoming a sort of a privileged landing spot for university launch startups worldwide. We want to host startups here from other higher education institutions all over the world. Whenever there is a match with the national innovation agenda, whenever there is a match with what we do in terms of applied research, what our faculty is doing in terms of applied research, and whenever there is an interest in providing a job or startup opportunities to our students. Another point is what we are doing in terms of programs. So in the last few months, we launched quite a massive startup development program that's been rolled out all over the system. Again, this is what has been the source of the 70 startups that we launched in the last few months. We believe that this program is quite unique in the UAE. Probably is the biggest and richest one, but maybe not only in the UAE. I would say in the GCC. So what we're doing is pretty unique in terms of quality, I would say, but also in terms of quantity. And what we also think is that we can provide this sort of experience, this sort of support to anyone who is outside HCT. I'm thinking about, we are thinking about alumni. I mean, alumni might come back to HCT to be supported in launching new startups together with the current students we have, together with our faculty. We are thinking about mid-career professionals that maybe they want to reshuffle their professional journey and consider a startup opportunity and partner again with our students and our faculty. So more and more, we want to make sure that the program we're offering to the current students of HCT is offered also outside, maybe initially with our alumni and later with the youth society at large. The final point is applied research. Again, this is something that is very linked to the first point. We want to make sure that our applied research is not sterile. It's very far from, it needs to be very far from fundamental research, it needs to be very far from basic research. What we want to do is something meaningful. And meaningful needs something that is helping the society, is supporting the industry, but also is a source of potential spin-out. There is lots of innovation that is perfectly commercialized through startups. So we want to see more and more of our faculty working on exciting applied research projects to embed their innovation, embed their technology into innovative products, innovative services. And this is something that, again, is not only creating prestige to the faculty who have been involved, but is potentially rewarding for the faculty themselves in terms of ownership of the intellectual property, in terms of participation as a shareholder in a startup, and also, again, of course, is providing a great value in terms of career opportunity for our students and economic impact for the UAE. Again, this is a long journey. We started this year with some, let's say, interesting results. We have big ambitions for the next 5 years, and I think this is a great opportunity for HCT to shine in a sort of different way from other institutions in the UAE and in the GCC.
I would have to assume that you're done, Nicola, right? Okay, all right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your time and for the explanation. I did not receive any questions in the Q&A. There was one question, but it kind of disappeared for some reason. Anyhow, given the time constraint that we have, you're more than welcome to email your questions to the strategy team, to HCT 4.0 at hct.ac.ae. Again, I'd like to reiterate that you're highly encouraged, staff, faculty, students, to provide your input in terms of the ideas that we're seeking on the HCT Innovate platform, or to provide those ideas as well to your directors, to your executive deans. There is a form by which these ideas can be captured, and then they will be channeled back to us to learn and to listen to your voice. So with that, I'd like to thank my colleagues, the panelists, and I'll hand it over to you, Elizabeth.
Many thanks to Dr. Sami for moderating a great discussion between our expert panelists today. We can all agree HCT's future is bright indeed. Now, I'd like to introduce Dr. Adel Al-Amri, VP of Strategy and Excellence, who will be speaking about HCT's ambitions for the prestigious Government Excellence Awards and our path to the top. Welcome, Dr. Adel.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum, everyone. This is a very important. Next slide, please. This is the last item, but it is as important. It highlights what we have gone through, our commitment to excellence as organization, as management, as individuals in the academic and in the admin. This is the year of in January 2020, in our winter. Dr. Abdullatif said, our President CEO, the year of recognition. At that time, the government, Mohammed bin Rashid, the Government Excellence Award was scheduled to be in 2020. However, now it is pushed to this year, 2021. A lot of work, a lot of commitment has been in place. The journey started, first time HCT participated was 2016. And then in the second round, we were shortlisted at the main award. As you all know, there is the main award, and there are categorical awards. Some are new this cycle, and also the medals of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid. What we see here in 2020, this is your effort. The team, the Government Excellence team, supported by the Executive Committee, all the resources were identified. So we have launched all these projects and activities with you and with your support. However, still the important leg of this journey is gone. However, the more important is coming, which is our participation in the award when the audit will come, and you will see the timeline. In this year, we had the self-assessment. We launched the Excellence Hub, through which all the training programs were conducted. Develop capabilities portfolio. The culture, it is very important to build the culture of and spreading the culture of excellence through the ambassadors that have been selected by the head of the departments and the VPs, and they worked hand in hand with the team, with the Government Excellence team. There was a student well-being program, leadership and excellence webpage. So all this work that has taken place with your support, with your engagement, with your commitment. And as I said, more important is what coming, the coming 6 months is very, very important to finalize our submission file and to prepare HCT for the audit team coming from the Government Excellence, for the Prime Minister, and for the main category and subcategories. Just to highlight, this time, it's for the first time, the audit will be virtual assessment. So we are, and we need to develop our capability in at the time of the audit. We are prepared with what can be, inshallah, received as the wow that highlight the hard work that has been done since the first participation. Next slide, please. Previous slide, it talks about what have been done in terms of projects, activities. Here are the fruit of your efforts. We have 22 enhancement projects that has been completed. We have 25 internal excellence ambassadors that are fully engaged and working with their departments and with their colleges and with their teams. We have mobilized task forces that have been established by the EC. We have integrated capabilities portfolio. So 8 strategic capabilities, 24 main and 149 sub capabilities. and or are aligned, which is very, very important, or aligned with the requirements of the excellence model, of the government excellence model. 250 plus training hours for all the departments through the Excellence Hub. We have submitted 21 different submission for awards, and already we have received 13 awards as winners and certifications, both national and international, at the organization level and individual levels. And inshallah, more will come because of the deadline for announcing those awards. More than 100,000 employees have received training. So these are the outcome of your commitment, of your engagement, and of the effort with the government excellence team and the support from the executive committee. The whole idea is very important, that to have and build the culture, both the leadership and the business owners are engaged, which is the case, I can say. However, we are at the final leg of our journey for this cycle. The journey of excellence does not stop. This is the words of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid. Next slide, please. These are very important dates. For the first time, the government excellence, the management of the government excellence award, they believe that introducing the excellence experts from the government to the different ministries and authorities and universities is a plus. So now they're adapting this. So we are expecting from 1st of April, between 1st of April and May, to have that introduction with the experts from the government excellence. Our submission deadline is 13th of June. 13th of June is not the beginning of our effort to submit, it's the end. So the team, the government excellence team, will be communicating with you through your heads, through your ambassadors, and directly for those who have been identified to complete our submission for all the categories as well as the medals. The virtual assessment will happen between 26 and 30 of April of June, July. So this is where we need to be available for them. I know July is academic, there is the summer break, but we need to work out our solution for receiving the auditors from the government excellence. September, October, the virtual assessment, award categories and medals for the leadership, which is the general manager or undersecretary or the president and CEO, as well as the executive directors. I mean, the undersecretary, assistant undersecretaries, and equivalencies in the ministries and authorities for the medals. So these are very important dates that we need to keep, and we need to understand that especially June 13 require a lot of work from now to June 13, so our submission is complete and exceed even our own expectation. Next slide, please. Okay, what we need from every one of us, the government model, the excellence model, is a working model. So in your department, in your campus, with the help of the government excellence team, to have a positive impact in your area, in your unit. The support is still needed. Your support is needed. The government excellence team will be finalizing, as I said, the submission. So more relevant data will be needed, evidence. So please ensure that you have been responsive. Please continue that. Finally, it is very important that those guidelines that will be issued from now until then to be attended to, understood. And if you have need for more information, please communicate back with the excellence team. So we all as an organization, and individuals in this organization will be ready at the time of the virtual assessment. Thank you very much. And back to you, Elizabeth.
Thank you, Dr. Adel, for sharing HCT's plan for winning the Government Excellence Awards. And with that, our biannual forum has come to a close. Many thanks to HCT's President and CEO, Dr. Abdullatif Al Shamsi, and all of today's presenters, panelists, and moderators for their interesting and engaging contributions about hybrid learning in the HCT context. And thank you all who have joined us today from home, from the office, or from the classroom. Please remember to post your reflections on what we learned today on HCT's social media channels using the hashtag HCT Hybrid Education. We wish you all a healthy and successful spring semester in our new hybrid learning world.